Hey everybody, welcome to Eden Fractal, our 69th meeting on Wednesday, September 27th. I'm here with Lisa and Evgeny and Eric and Rosmari and Perry and Space Ranger Joe and Gudus and Das and Luca. It's Luca's first time here, so we're welcoming to the community and talking about all sorts of cool stuff. And first time we've seen Evgeny. But we've had lots of great conversations and lots of important conversations. I'm going to share a presentation in a moment, share a little recap of our recent weeks and the topics on the agenda. And if anybody wants to jump in and say hello first or share anything, then feel free to do so. But otherwise, thank you very much, everybody, for being here. Really appreciate it. And thank you, everybody, for watching. And hope you're having a wonderful day. All right, so we're here at Eden Fractal. Of course, you can learn more at edenfractal.com. Also, t.me/edenfractal. You can get in touch with the community. We're a community who's making innovative game shows and tools, and we're making all sorts of cool stuff that you can learn on the website. Rosmari put out a nice message, as she does each week, saying how you can watch the recently released episodes. We produce videos each week of our episodes as we're respecting and creating amazing public goods. And you can join the Zoom room and RSVP at lou.ma/edenfractal to get notifications for upcoming meetings. So you can check that out and encourage you to invite your friends and join all the meetings. There's really cool, exciting stuff that we're doing in the community. You can also check out edenfractal.com/videos, where we're publishing videos from each week. Big shout out to Rosmari, who's also making beautiful thumbnails, and we're working on some great descriptions and show notes and stuff like that. In recent weeks, we've been talking a lot about optimism and collaborations with the Eden community. And we also recently got the Eden msig, the Eden.fractal msig figured out too. So there's lots of great things going on here with Jitsi and Tropic Games and so forth that you can explore, as well as at youtube.com/@EdenCreators. And then you can scroll down in the show notes and you can look at stories. Rosmari's been doing a great job of making these stories. So I encourage you, if you want just a quick highlight overview of some of the things that have been going on in the community, then you can check out these stories and share with friends and see a lot of the cool stuff we're doing. Another thing I want to share too, so we're going to talk about the topics on the agenda and get into the respect game and the breakout room shortly. But one sad note that I wanted to share is that we lost one of our community members it happened a few weeks ago, but we just heard last week. Jorge had shared a message saying, "Rest in peace, Martin Bird Sparrow. May your soul drive the most powerful aircraft wherever you go next." Marco was an amazing community member who is here with us since the beginning of Eden Fractal, since the very first meeting, as well as a leader in many other Fractal communities. He's a big fan of aviation. He brought a huge amount of wisdom and a great sense of humor, and I'm going to miss him a lot. So I don't know the best way to do it, but I figured I wrote a little bit here in the Telegram chat, and then I curated some other messages from people as well who shared very loving messages from Marco. And one message that I encourage everybody to read is from Marcus, who's from EOS Support and has participated in the Fractally meetings. He wrote that it's with heavy hearts that we announce the passing of our beloved EOS community member, Marco González. He's an extraordinary human being. I suppose I won't read it all out here, but I encourage you all to read it. And may welcome, and I hope that Marco rests in peace. And I also curated some more links too, so you can check out the obituary and learn more about Marco and his history. And then also I put together a page and that we can get more into detail in the Eden Fractal topics for today, showing some of Marco's works on W3 briefs. He wrote a huge amount of articles highlighting progress of Eden and Eden Fractal and the EOS community. He wrote timelines. I also wrote a little bit of stories too, and we have videos from him at the first Eden Fractal meeting, and then I curated some of the screenshots where people wrote really nice messages. So I'll share this publicly so people can see it. But shout out to, or I don't know if I should say shout out, but thank you, Evgeny, for sharing your thoughts, and Kriya Vanilla and Pascal and Brendan Lovejoy, a lot of beautiful messages, and Mel and Michael O'Sullivan. So if anybody else wants to share any thoughts about Marco right now, then of course feel free to be happy to hear from you, or we can also get into it afterwards and remember more about Marco. There's a lot of great memories we can share, but I wasn't sure the best way to do this, but I figured just curating some of these links was a good way. And then maybe perhaps too, feel free to jump in if anyone wants to share anything right now, but a couple more links I have shared is Marco's website that he put a lot of work into, w3briefs.com, where he provided a lot of great educational resources for people to learn about EOS and Eden and all the great innovations that we're doing here. He put together timelines about the founding of the EOS network and how it's developed over time and grown independence and how the communities emerged. He put together timelines about Eden and how it started from a from goal to help people attain life, liberty, and property, and more equal animals, and Eden EOS. And he did a lot of great work about Fractally. He was a leader in many fractal communities. So there's a lot more I could say here. We're on relatively short timeline, so I could go more in detail afterwards, but I just want to let you know I was passing and all the great work and celebrate and share some amazing things about Marco. So yeah, if anybody wants to jump in, then of course feel free. But otherwise, I suppose we can return to it later. And I hope Marco will rest in peace. And I encourage you to check out all these messages to learn more about Marco and all the great things he's done. And then also one other announcement I want to make too. In this week, Gudasol shared some great messages. Marco participated in the Aquadac many times too. So Gudasol just started Aquadac Season 3. That's pioneering consensus games, and you can learn more in the link that he shared. But we can get more into detail about that too. I suppose I should just go into the topics. I actually forgot to. I started to make a topic here, just basically sharing the link to the topics for the agendas, but I'll do this shortly. Currently, there's no other topics on the agenda, so I'll put this through and then vote for it. If anybody else has topics, then feel free to put it up. But otherwise, I just put together a list of topics similar to how we did in previous weeks. Actually, I opened the wrong thing. So actually, if I go back here into the Eden Fractal topics database, then in EF69, these are topics that I put in the agenda that perhaps we can get into if anybody else has anything else in their mind. I suppose I'll stop my screen share now. If anybody else wants to share some thoughts before we go into breakout rooms, then please feel free. If not, then I can start the breakout rooms and we'll go. I suppose we have 5 people in each breakout room, so we can go to the top of the hour and that should be good. We'll have about 43 minutes or so to do everything unless we want to go longer. That sound good? Anybody want to share some thoughts, or should we go into breakout rooms now? All right. I'll start the breakout rooms and hope that everybody has a great time.
Yay.
Hello, nice to see you.
Nice to see you all. Looks like I'm gonna get crushed again.
Well, likewise, very nice to see you. And I would say crushed, especially after last week, all the great, I mean, you were kind of hosting the call with me, Perry, last week. So I thought that was really helpful. And I respect that immensely. And I'm sure you've been up to lots of great work as well. I'm very much looking forward to hearing about, but also Space Rain, Gojo, and Evgeny. I imagine they're going to bring some really great contributions too. So we'll see. And it looks like Eric is also going to be joining us shortly, but he's not here yet. In the meantime, I'll start to call the election.
Yeah.
Hey, Eric.
Hey.
Hello, Eric.
Good to see you. Would anybody like to go first and share what they've been up to help the community?
I can start. I'm happy to start, unless somebody else wants to. I'm happy to start. Anybody? No? Well, other than what Dan just mentioned, my great contribution last week as to the meeting itself. Yeah, I'm gonna run with that, Dan.
Nice.
Yeah, I guess that would be considered a contribution of sorts, helping the conversation move forward, and I appreciate that, Dan. Thank you very much. On my own side here, I don't have a lot to report other than my attempt to participate in some meetings with Eden on EOS, some of which I was able to do, the delegate meeting and a few others, but most of them have been canceled for some reason. I guess they're just preparing for the next election and getting all the founding documents in order, and people are traveling. So those meetings didn't occur. But mostly what I've been doing are things that I can't report at this particular moment, which are working on the next release of DNews, which is really exciting for me, but I can't really give details at this moment. because that's how product releases go. You want to kind of wait till the very end, and you want to release it with a little bit of excitement, and rather than just dribble it along. So that's what I've got for this week, guys, and I'm looking forward to what you guys are saying. And so I'm basically here for the gossip. So the next gossiper in my window is, I'm gonna just say Eugene. That's how I remember your name,
Okay.
Eugene.
Yes, I think you're right, because I just wrote my name like it was like it written in my passport. So it's just a Russian transcription, and it's not pronunciation like my real name if people read it in English. Because my name is Evgeny, and but here is something something else. Um, and yes, when I studied English, my teacher called me Eugene.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So it's okay. Um, um, I don't really remember how it works, because we what we are talking about contribution in EOS or in EOS or in Eden Fractal community, because I don't know, I did not for Eden Fractal. So I did some translation, of course, for Russian speak community about EOS ecosystem, but not do anything for Eden Fractal.
I've been including both the greater EOS community and Eden Fractal in my weeklies, but I would say Dan's the authority on that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's also, I mean, it's up to each community member to decide when they're doing their rankings what they feel is most valuable. I think for sure contributions to EOS are valuable, so please feel free to share those. Evgeny, I'm very curious to hear. And I would say you could also relate it to how it helps Eden Fractal, perhaps, if you want to. But just sharing what you're working with EOS is very welcome, and I think that's a great contribution. And yeah, it's up to each person to decide how they want to as well.
Thank you. So I'm working in EOS support and in like EOS Russian community. So I did a lot of translation for EOS support, but this job was paid, so I don't think it should be included here. And my work in EOS Russian, it's not very big, because I wanted to start my YouTube show for 3 months already, and I do think about it, but I do nothing, and I think I don't do anything useful, only translate some news and articles and tweets. And I today I bought a ticket to the Russian crypto conference, and I hope I will tell people about EOS there, because 2 weeks ago I was in my hometown. We have a big IT conference. It's not about only blockchain; it's about all IT. And but I don't know this word in English. Moderator. I don't know moderator. Yeah, do we have? So I draw. I drive section about blockchain. So I met a lot of crypto people there, and we discussed about EOS. Unfortunately, everyone think EOS is dead. So I try to tell them it's not. I think that's all. Not I don't think I did a lot contribution this week. So next is Dan in my screen.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Evgeny, for sharing. And also, yeah, but as you haven't been here, if you did want to share any more about what you've done just the past week, but over the past few months, then feel free. And I think you still have like a minute or two left if you did want to provide a bit more detail, or if you don't want to pass it on now, then that's okay. But if you did want to share more about any other work for EOS or Eden that you've been up to for a while, then you could feel free to share a bit more. But if not, I can go. Or also, if Eric or Space Ranger John, I'm still getting my presentation ready too. So if anyone else wants to go first, then feel free. But is there anything else you wanted to add there, Evgeny, or is that all?
That's all. I
Okay.
think
Well,
you can go there.
I'll go if that'll help you, Dan. So you always have a big for Evgeny. My focus is always helping come up with the governance process. So anything I can do to help with the tools, methods, and people will tell you that I rarely don't have an opinion or at least some insights on something here. So I may be quiet for a lot. When people ask me to talk, I usually have some idea because I'm constantly thinking how to put this in context with everything else. So what I do is look at a big chaos and say, how do these pieces fit together and where can we go? So in addition to the getting the process, tools, methods better, anything I can do to help with that, the second thing is how do we take these and implement them as many places as possible using the metaverse as test case, such as dynamics of hegemony and the game, and real world. So with that, my big thing in promoting this and talking about this is spend a lot of planning for the Interplanetary Unconference and figuring out how to get Eden and Eden governance in there. So did a lot of people talk, a lot of planning. Perry, I'd be interested in how we can do some kind of governance thing if you're ready to launch the new version of what you're doing. If it fits within that time frame and we can do it during Governance Day, I'd be happy to promote or do a session, you know, saying here's where you get governance information, or here's where you find out about the latest tools, anything you want to do. Be glad to work with that, work with Lisa. Also work with PS Inc., which is about to be approved to be a nonprofit. And their tools allow anybody to log in using the usual Google, whatever, one-stop shop. And then it has tools that can do what we're doing here using WebRTC. And what's nice is you can put it on top of, you don't have to use a blockchain, but you can put it on top of any blockchain. So I had a good meeting with PS Inc. about what we can do together. They're talking about starting with 3 communities. I talked them, I think, into a 4th community to support the doctoral research I'm doing on this. And we talked about, they hadn't even thought of how it fits into gaming. And why? Because we've got strong ties as a test platform, including dynamics of hegemony. So I got their creative juices thinking about that. We're going to reconnect in 2 weeks to do that. Talk about a fractal governance panels. We talked about another open mic night. We talked about fractal palooza, where you get all the fractal owners to come in, or managers to talk about what they're doing, what's working, what's not, where they want to go. So those topics. And then I also met with my real world test case, new executive director. She's phenomenal and right in line, and verbally agreed that, yeah, we can go do this. So I can actually create some actual documentation for what I'm doing. And if Dan's read another few pages of my dissertation prospectus, maybe some more insight hidden in there of how I'm going to do that. But now I'm writing that out in a dissertation. So 3 chapters of a dissertation. So I've moved on and doing that, which will allow me to get approval. What does that do for us? It gives us credibility. When someone says, how do you know this works for something? We don't have any data here. Anecdotally, we know it works, but so my job is to get data. So I met when I started moving in chapters, started moving my prospectus into chapters to actually do it and get approval. And I met with the real world case. So, oh, and one other thing is I started a proposal support group. I know it's on Planet Ike, but that's because I don't have anywhere here to put it. But in my view, anybody can come in. So what we're trying to do is fund counselors who people can book appointments with and say, help me come up with an idea, help me write it up, and how do I submit it? So that includes things like Dan's doing with Optimism. So if Dan would like to be an Optimism counselor. So I think I have some Trillium support for that. Wouldn't mind EOS support for that. But the whole goal is to create the proposal support center. So I did that. So far, I have 2 counselors signed up. And with that, I guess Dan should be ready now. Try to give you lots of time to do all your stuff.
Thank you, Eric. I appreciate that. And you gave me lots of time, and it wasn't difficult because you also did a lot of amazing work too. So appreciate you sharing all the awesome updates and all the great work you've been continually doing to help us out and help everybody out. And yeah, I'm ready to go. I was trying to think of what to share. But anyway, I'll share my screen and we'll take it from there. So a lot of this past week has been in kind of a more like research state. I was also sick for the end of last week, so that kind of inhibited my ability a little bit to get as much work as I'd like to get done. But I've been working a lot on lots of really exciting stuff. The main thing, as Eric had said, is that I'm working on starting up a new fractal community called Optimism. And so a lot of it's been research and listening and learning and studying, and also preparing. In last week's, I did a lot of work. I did a huge amount of work. So I shared, this might be a bit confusing for people who might be watching now and seeing it for the first time, but there's a proposal I made, which actually isn't linked here, but there's a detailed proposal I made with Vlad and Tadas and Rosmari to start Optimism Fractal in a new community called Optimism, or Optimism is not such a new community, but it's been around for a couple of years, and it's one of the leading layer 2 Ethereum ecosystems that is highly aligned and focused on funding public goods and helping coordinate humanity and helping empower communities. So I've been really excited about how we can empower Eden Fractal with Optimism and help Optimism with Eden Fractal and all the great collaborations. So last week I shared all these different details where I wrote a lot of detail or a pretty detailed history of our history and where Eden Fractal came from, where the communities came from, and going back to the beginning when Dan Larimer created all these great innovations, and then created more equal animals and created Fractally, and how that led to Eden on EOS and had led to Eden Fractal and so forth. And then how, as a community of volunteers, we have a lot of great opportunities, but working with Optimism and their funding sources and all their great potential could be super helpful. And then I curated lists of a bunch of great fractals that have started, or fractal communities, and write a lot of details about them. So don't bother giving me respect for this particularly, probably because I did this all last week, but just to provide a little overview to make it more sense. There's a whole lot more here too, in addition to the proposal. This has been what I've been working on well over full time for a while, just trying to grow this as well as possible. But just to provide a little bit of context for what I did this week. So this week I heard that unfortunately this proposal did not get approved by the Grants Council. I tried putting out this message and making it clear that we'd be happy to work with them and so forth, but I don't know, they had limited time to view it, and most of the proposals did not get approved. We made it to the top 40%, but not the top 30%. But we learned a lot, and then I spoke with Vlad and Tadas, and Vlad and Tadas are still interested in doing it, as well as Rosmari. So figuring out how to start Optimism Fractal without the support of the Grants Council, at least without having the funding from the Grants Council. So I've been working on building a new brand for Optimism, kind of like Eden Creators, but like a new media outlet to promote Optimism content, and also plans to start the Optimism Fractal, aiming to start it within a few weeks from now. And have some tools, and I'm working on some business models too, in ways that we can get everybody funding from Eden Fractal and Optimism Fractal and so forth. So those are still kind of in early stages. Hopefully I'll have a lot more to share next week. I think I will. I think I have some really exciting ideas, but that's still in development, and we're figuring out the next steps. In addition to that, I also put together the topics from this week for that we could potentially discuss after the respect game. So as I shared before, I curated a bunch of content about Marco and remembering Marco, and curated, I didn't show it all, but there's a lot more here, just kind of remembering Marco, and I'll continue to add to it, as well as all the pictures and so forth. And then I also worked a lot on the Eden Fractal msig updates too. So Vlad made a proposal. I was planning to post this before the meeting today, but I didn't get a chance, so I'll post it afterwards. But basically an update on how in recent weeks, the delegates approved to change the permissions. And so I worked on just making this as clear as possible. I'm going to reach out to Patrick and James, hopefully today, to have that updated. And I asked Vlad to make the msig proposal. I had some issues and so forth, so I explained this all, and I'm going to be sharing this soon, and I can share an update about this in the meeting today. I also worked a little bit on, well, I attended the Aquadac meeting, and I helped out figuring out the future of the next season that Douglas is hosting, where he's hosting similar kind of consensus games to Eden Fractal. And then I also wrote this message, as well as linked the interview that Rosmari did with Gudasol here. So I'm planning also sharing this in the chat too, but I didn't get a chance. I've been joining Aquadac meetings and developing my music career, and also helping fellow community members with a bunch of goals. So I kind of like gave a little introduction for Eden Fractal community members here, but still haven't shared that yet, but I'll share it in the chat and afterwards. This introduction to optimism, that's an old topic, so I didn't do anything this week, but I did curate a bit about different topics. So I asked Rosmari to help out with creating show notes and also an article at Optimism. I had created kind of the draft about an Optimism article. So I'll show those briefly, but I provided feedback on what she wrote, and I'm still working with her to try to optimize those articles about optimism. And then that's kind of, I just explained that already. And I've also been researching Retro PGF, and I curated a little bit about new podcast that came out at Retro PGF. Retro PGF is the major funding mechanism for the optimism community that I think that lots of people can earn funding from, and it can be really helpful. So started to write a little bit of that, as well as researching coordination tools that are possible with EVM tools. Now that we'll have EVM software for fractal cooperation, there's a bunch of really great tools, and so I've been curating some of them, and I'll share more details at those. I mentioned that I shared that I gave some feedback on some of the show notes. So Rosemary's been doing an excellent job in making the thumbnails and the descriptions. I've been working with her to try to just make these as awesome as possible, and they're coming out really well, and also providing some feedback, especially on this one about the community account, like I was talking about before, and then providing feedback and just trying to help her write it as best as possible. So I did that for both 65, 64, and 66 this week. So you can learn more there. That's mostly to her credit, but I helped out and just provided a lot of feedback and so forth. And I've also been just working on some articles in the background, like respect trees. Tadas worked on respect trees a while ago, and so I've been just, there's not much here yet, but as I've been doing stuff like preparing for Optimism, I've also been working on some older articles that I've meaning to do in the backlog, and that kind of linked to some of the other articles, as well as I worked on show notes for the first Eden Fractal meeting this week too. This was for the meeting, or for the optimism proposal, and also a little bit because Marco was at this meeting too. So there's a story I wrote in the Everything EOS weekly report when we first had the first in the first Eden Fractal meeting, when I was working for EOS Nation. I was writing articles for the EOS Network Foundation. So I curated some of this, as well as some videos that I hosted from the Hot Sauce when I was hosting that at the time, and also the town hall. And then I curated like Patrick's donations and a lot of the early stuff that happened back in the first week. So that's another thing that I worked on this week as well. But anyway, that's all that I did for this week, I suppose, and I can pass it on to Space Wrangler Joe.
Mr. Wrangler.
Hey, all right. So yeah, busy week. I'm sorry to hear that your grant proposal didn't work out this time for Optimism, but I remain optimistic for you, Dan. Let me know if there's something I could do to help. I definitely reached out, and I know you were in the thick of it, and maybe at that point it's like, what can somebody do to help? But if you have a better idea of what needs to be done and there's a way I contribute, please feel free to reach out. As
Thank
far
you.
as what I've done,
Thank you very much.
oh yeah, no problem. As far as what I've done this week, in regards to this, I know a lot of this stuff gets jumbled with the different groups that we're in, like Eric mentioned with the Center for Governance stuff and all that. So I've been kind of going with that as well, what Eric's doing as well, trying to be supportive there, working with Beanie and another person's story night with some design stuff.
And it does fit in because where we're holding the Interplanetary Unconference, is within the Center for Governance, and we're having Eden meetings within that governance in that space. So there's the link. We've got a virtual, he's helping create the virtual space to hold the Eden meetings for the Interplanetary Unconference.
Yeah, and I know there's like a lot of crossover. So yeah, I'm doing that, and then I've got another fractal going. It's called the Upland Alien, and we, as Fractalgram, has been having a little bit of issues, and it's something that's not very easy to introduce people who aren't familiar with Telegram to. We kind of came up with a different way to reach consensus. Let me see if I can show you guys
Buddha.
here. Hey, that's me as Buddha. That's the old face swap in AI. Let me see if I can
Is it really? That's funny.
share my screen here. Switch. I need to get rid of my background. There we go.
Become one with the consensus, Joe.
Yes.
That's right.
Oh, that's cool.
Okay, so here's our little, and this is created by one of our new members, the artwork here. And then we have all the stuff that happened, right? Who attended, what we voted on, what we agreed on. And then you just mint the actual NFT. It's free. And then that's how we kind of have reached a consensus, you know? So I did that. And then also, again, I'm big with the governance stuff. I think that's one of the main reasons that I am here and came here and am involved with this. So I am trying to utilize the different tools that are available right now. So for this new fractal group, a lot of this stuff is like sustainability and funding and trying to figure out, you know, how can the group itself, you know, fund itself for projects, etc. And so one of the things we did right off the bat was we all voted on Consortium and gained a trillium for taking part in the Consortium pilot program. So our group got, you know, I don't know, 3,000 or so trillium for actually doing it. It's a kind of a very underutilized system, I think partially because it's kind of expensive to vote and to create things to vote. So I think that's partially why it's underutilized, and maybe that'll change in the future. But we took advantage of it so that we got, you know, I got 8 people who never heard of this thing, didn't even understand it, to go through a bunch of rigmarole to be able to vote. And so that was really interesting. And, you know, definitely a learning thing for me because I'm kind of used to this blockchain stuff and all that. So in my mind, I was like, oh, I can walk these people through this together in a group and no problem, 15 minutes maybe. Hour later, one guy had voted. So my assumptions on how easy the explanation and all that was going to be was way off. So it actually took, you know, everyone's schedule is different and different things. So it ended up taking a couple days, but it all worked out. We did get funding for our group. We do have another meeting tomorrow. We're setting up a live trivia. We're trying to do it during the Unconference. And it's based on the 2 metaverses that our group is like highly involved with, and that's Alien Worlds and Upland. And it's almost working like a kind of like a marketing, but also just like a lesson, because with any of these games or metaverses or platforms, can be very difficult to find how to play, like where the buttons, all this stuff. With Alien Worlds, there's syndicates, there's governance, there's DAOs, there's voting, there's money. Each planet has its own token that's related to TLM, its own custodians. It changes each week. Upland has all of its little intricacies and all of its little things. So what we're planning on doing is asking kind of fairly simple questions for the people who play these games. Like, for instance, who was the top vote getter in Planet Ike this week? Well, I know how to look that information up in a snap, but most people who don't really play Alien Worlds would be like, I don't know, what the hell? How would I ever figure that out? So we're going to reward people 100 TLM for getting the right answer, and then we're going to take the time and show them how they got that information. Same thing with Upland. So it's just teaching people how to navigate the different metaverses UI at this point. So that's the plan for tomorrow, and yeah, that's kind of what I've been up to with this stuff. Oh yeah, Ike athletes and different stuff like that, but I don't know if that's directly related. But yeah, that's my contribution this week. Oh, and Aquadac. I went to Aquadac. We came up with a new plan for next thing. We talked about supporting each other as a group and in different ways we could help each other and achieve our own personal goals, etc. So I thought that was pretty beneficial too.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Joe. Lots of amazing contributions from everybody today. This is really exciting. I'm curious, well, if anybody has any questions or comments for anybody, would be happy to hear. And then, Joe, one thing I'm wondering is, so this is, I guess, the third week that you've hosted the Upland Aliens, if I'm not mistaken. And so I'm curious, like, I guess, one, just generally, I appreciate there's some tech issues in explaining. So I'm wondering, is everybody having a good time? And then also, I'm curious how many people have been joining these meetings.
So we first got 9, and then we whittled it down to 5. And we're trying to kind of keep it as a small group at first and get people to engage. And then kind of once we've proven it and we've got our kind of core group, then we're planning on each person inviting one person and kind of doing it exponentially like that as we're ready to scale is the plan. But I would like these meetings, right? Like for instance, today Lucas came in, right? So you've got 9 people that are very aware of the process, who have been through it, all know it, right? So to add one person, no big deal, da da da. But when you've got one person who's been through the process and you're trying to add 9 people who have no idea what the hell's going on, oh, it's a nightmare. And so I kind of realized, like, well, I can't do this every week. If I do that every week and just have this exponential growth, like all it will be each time is like a introduction to what the heck this is. You know what I mean? And nothing will ever get done. So that's why I realized and we talked about it and decided, hey, whoa, let's get this together, let's get a thing going, and then invite others. So that's where that's at.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thanks for sharing. And I certainly feel what you're saying there. So yeah, hopefully everybody's been enjoying it though, and it's still been good. And it seems like you got a good strategy going. And then one more note on that is that I'm also gonna be facing the same thing a lot with the optimism community, people having no idea about it. So I'm gonna be working a lot on making like a really concise, like welcoming materials. So hopefully that can be helpful for you too, to help scale it up and be able to introduce people quicker.
I think all you need is the purpose for the group and what you're going to do, quick roadmap, and then do it. And then you can add a little part for education. I wouldn't try and hit people with it, because this is, if you have somebody in there that knows what they're doing, it's pretty easy to do. So just get people doing it and then slowly educate people.
I've got a question.
That was my lessons learned from the art fractal.
I've got a question for Joe. What part of the process was everybody getting hung up most? In other words, did some people need to create an EOS wallet, or did everybody arrive with an EOS wallet and the problem they had was with Fractal Grid? Where did the bottlenecks occur most?
there's a lot of issues, right, for me, and okay, so the first thing is most of these people, although that game Upland and their whole metaverse is based in EOS, they don't even know what EOS is. They don't have an EOS wallet. Some of them do have an Anchor wallet, but they don't know that it can even connect to EOS. They use it for wax. You know what I mean? And that's the thing is Alien Worlds, you can only use a wax wallet at this point. You can't even use an Anchor wallet. So there's hangups there, right? Because you know, like in other words, so to vote, like okay, so to vote on Consortium, you need the specific token from the planet. And so you need to actually go into Alien Worlds with your Wax wallet. You need to transfer TLM to this planet token. It's a one-to-one thing, and then you get that in your wallet. Then you can go into Consortium and vote. Now it's tricky because you can sign in to Consortium with either your Anchor or your Wax, but if you have to sign in with the one you did the swap for that Alien Worlds planet token with, so you have to use the Wax wallet, you know, or else you wouldn't be able to vote, right? Because you wouldn't have any tokens to vote with, any voting power. So that was one problem with that part. But then once I got them to do that, you have to do it for each planet. So that's another confusing part of it for them. And then half of them are like, okay, I kind of get the thing, but like each planet being its own DAO and that whole voting thing was confusing for people. The fractogram thing, I didn't even touch it because we had a couple issues the last couple of weeks using it, even with experienced people, and almost everyone there doesn't use Telegram. So there's only so if you don't use Telegram, fractogram's out of the picture, kind of, right? You know what I mean? So I had a double whammy there because I had a non-Anchor wallet group of people, but mainly because that's how Alien Worlds operates, and then also a non-Telegram group. So Consortium was the way to go because it's just web-based and you can sign on with either one. So that's an easy way to kind of get some sort of consensus. So that's kind of what we did.
We have a lot of work to do.
Just so you know, for your information, the fractogram was fixed by you have to log out and log back in after the update. So first it was broken, then they updated it, but to be able to use the fix, you had to log out and log back in.
Yeah, and then the other thing too, I know you probably already know, but I don't know if Harry does, but Vlad's coming out with a whole new version of this thing. And they were talking about it like last Thursday or this Thursday, demoing it and doing it. So that's the other thing. I'm like, if it's about to, the whole thing's about to change, I don't really want to try to introduce a bunch of people to it and then be like, oh, well, remember that thing? Now it doesn't, you don't even use it anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah, good point, Joe. I think Vlad and Matthias, they're and the Nard, they're getting ready to release the version that they've been planning to build for the past year almost now. So I'm excited about that. I suppose we don't have too much time. I don't want to make it go too much past up the hour, but we could go over a little bit. Does anyone else have any other questions or comments that anybody wants to ask? Or I also don't want to cut a conversation if Joe, you want to add in there, or more people like more questions or comments for Joe or anybody else in the room before we get into consensus?
Yeah, Joe, add your EOS account to the Telegram. Thanks.
Cool. Are we ready to start the ranking?
Sure.
Very difficult.
Level 6 is the most.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep, 6 is the top. All right. And it looks like there's 2 votes for myself from Evgeny and Perry, 2 votes from Perry from myself and Joe, and 1 vote for Joe from Eric, and something just switched. And now it looks like there's 3 votes for me and 2 votes for Perry. I suppose I can switch to myself if that would help us reach consensus. Also, I did want to say thanks again to Perry. If anyone does want to switch to Perry, I'd be happy to give Perry lots of respect. Another thing he didn't mention was he kind of like co-hosted the EOS Fireside Chat too for the past 2 weeks. So I was listening to that, and you were asking a lot of great questions. So that was really cool, and a lot of great information. And then yeah, really appreciate all the work you're doing. But I'm happy either way, really.
Well, I don't know if I deserve it this week, guys. I appreciate that, absolutely, but it's very interesting. Question, like, what do we do about people who are working on things that they can't report? But I do appreciate that I was kind of helping out on the hosting in the sense of just asking questions, but that's just satisfying my own curiosity. I was genuinely interested. So yeah, I appreciate the appreciation, but I'm not sure if I'm number 1 this week, guys. I don't know if that's, yeah, I don't know if I could take that in good conscience. I like to keep my conscience clear.
Okay.
Keeps me young. Keeps me young.
Well, sounds good, Ferry. I appreciate all your I really appreciate the discussion last week that we had the Eden Fractal, and it was really cool listening to you at the Fireside Chat, and I'm sure you're doing great stuff with DNews I'm looking forward to. But yeah, I'm happy to change the vote to myself, I suppose, to reach consensus here, and then we can still give you lots of respect this week and lots more respect in the future 6 when you have more to share about DNews and stuff with us too, I suppose. And thanks everybody for the support. I appreciate it very much.
Oh, did Perry again. Maybe I'll try it again. Let me respawn that, see if it goes.
Yeah, because I'm seeing Dan as a choice.
Yeah. There you go.
Okay.
Okay.
I guess there was a turn of sentiment. Okay.
It changed. It's really difficult for me to vote because I don't know. I really appreciate what everybody's doing here.
I nuked myself.
You nuked yourself. Okay.
Oh God.
It looks like Perry's got 2, Eric's got 2, and Joe's got 1. Yeah, it's really tough.
I'm seeing something different. I'm seeing Eric in the lead.
Oh, is Eric in the lead?
I don't know. That's what I'm showing. No, now I'm showing it's I'm tied when I hit view results. Yeah, so the percentage on the in the Telegram
I think it's
chat
wacky.
itself is different than when you hit view results dialog box.
Yeah, I see that too.
Yeah. So I don't know which does anyone know which one is actually closer to reality?
Well, usually sometimes on the computer it doesn't work so well. On my phone, it says that Perry has 2 votes, Eric has 2 votes, and Joe has 1 vote. That's what I see there.
Yeah.
Okay. I've got Eric when I'm looking at the chat as opposed to the pop-up dialog. Now I'm seeing 40-40. Eric
Yeah, I see that too. It looks like the percentage is just updated.
But it was
right.
Eric.
Right. Do that.
Now it's, oh God, good Lord, what's going on?
Does anyone want to advocate either way? I mean, for me, I could advocate for Evgeny, Joe, Eric, Perry. I don't really know. Like, I really appreciate all you're all doing. So I could go really either way for the level 5.
Yeah. Oh God, what's going on? Is somebody just playing with this thing? What's going on?
It looks like Perry has consensus now.
I'm going to advocate for Eric. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, right now, oh,
Good
sorry,
Lord. What's going on here? Okay. Well. Okay. I guess that was done. All right. Yeah, I have no control either way. It's out of control.
Waiting on one vote.
We haven't got a vote from Joe yet. I don't think.
Now we do.
Oh, now we do. Okay.
All right, I'm up to.
Right now, Eric has a consensus.
Looks like it.
Man, this is really difficult because Joe's been doing amazing work with this Upland Aliens thing and shared a great report of all these great things he's doing. But also, Evgeny, he hasn't been here for a while, and I really want to expect him joining again. And I really appreciate what Evgeny does. So, man, this whole thing is difficult.
I think I did not my best on this week, so don't worry. I think Joe is the best today.
Okay. Okay, so Joe has consensus on level 3, and that means that Evgeny will get level 2. Lots of respect for everybody, and yeah, Evgeny, I'd be happy to give you top level one of these times because I know that you've done a lot of great stuff, and really appreciate you joining us again. And yeah, Joe, I really appreciate what you're doing. That's amazing. And as I said before, first I said thank you for your help with Optimism Fractal stuff. And yeah, sorry I never got back to that message. I just remember you sent me a message and I never got back to that. So I'm sorry. I'll get back to that as soon as I can. But really appreciate you reaching out and offering to help. And I will definitely take you up on that and let you know, and happy to collaborate. And then likewise, as we discussed for the Upland Aliens too, I'm looking forward to joining one of those sometimes and helping out however I can.
I was delegate last week, so I think I'm out.
Yeah, Perry is the delegate king from last week. And then I think Eric is the delegate king from 2 weeks ago. And then I was a delegate 3 weeks ago before that, and my term will be ending shortly. Is anybody interested in being a delegate? I would be so if you all like, but happy to also hear if anyone else is interested.
We have to figure out what the delegates are going to do. I mean, I think we know, but we just haven't. Delegates haven't done anything in quite a while. Am I wrong about that?
No, I mean the delegates 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, delegates voted to update the permissions on the Eden.fractal account, update the owner, active, and Morpheus. That's a pretty big decision delegates made.
True. That's true. Yeah. That was informal, though, right? That was over the video.
Waiting on 3.
Is anyone else interested? I'm happy to vote for myself if nobody else is interested in being a delegate. Okay. Yeah, I'm happy to do it as my term will be running out this week, after this week anyway.
There we go.
Okay, cool. And yeah, that was a formal proposal, Perry, that we approved. It was on video, but we also put it on Consortium. So that's about as formal as we can get it. The only thing is that it wasn't on chain yet, but because it can't be on chain because the delegates aren't on chain right now. But the on chain proposal was made by Vlad in accordance with what the delegates approved.
Okay.
Great. We're 5 minutes past the upper hour, so I suppose I should just go ahead and end the breakout room now, or at least hit the button, so I'll end in 60 seconds. But before we do that, I just want to say thanks everybody so much. Really enjoyed this room and really appreciate what everybody's doing here. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks all. Big surprise for me today. Didn't expect that. Thank you.
Yeah, you thought you were going to be crushed.
Thought I was going to get away with. Yeah, it was. I don't know what happened. We're not in control.
It's a wild world. And yeah, I'm pretty sure you know how it works, Evgeny, but you can hit the where it says here to submit it on chain easily with Fractalgram.
Submitted.
Likewise. I hope you've been enjoying hanging out with the aliens, the unconference too, Eric. Looks like you got a.
Yeah, we got kicked. We're missing the group number. Dallas.
Yeah, group number is 1. It was, you could find it in the Zoom.
Great. Done.
Yes, good, except now we are missing Goodassol's account name. Goodassol, are you there?
Isn't it in his name?
I can.
Yeah,
Yes,
you just text it in the chat.
I'm going to fill it up and share it with and
Okay.
reshare the link with the
Okay, thanks,
in the Telegram.
Rosmari.
Okay, great. Welcome back, everybody, to the community room. Hope that you all had a great time in your breakout rooms and enjoyed the respect game. Sorry about the timing. It wasn't totally clear. We got a bit of a late start today. I'll try to get more punctual in the future so we can be more clear that we'll end at exactly the top of the hour. And I see Gudis also saying he was in a call. His apologies. But yeah, hopefully you all had enough time to come to consensus and everything like that. So if anybody had any issues and you did need to go back or anything else you want to discuss, then feel free to share it here or let me know. I can start the breakout rooms up again. If not, we can get into the topics on the agenda and I can share my screen to introduce them. Does anybody want to share anything, any thoughts on your mind before we get into topics on the agenda? And also too, I'd be curious to hear from Luca if you want to share any thoughts about your first experience playing the Respect game. Hopefully you had a great time and I'd be happy to hear from you if you did want to share anything.
Yeah, thank you very much. Of course, I'm learning a lot. This is my first time in Eden practically. I'm just eager to keep learning about the systems on all the governance that we have here. So it's been great. I think we have a very streamlined process right now, and I hope I was able to catch up with all the details. Thank you.
All right, sounds great.
Lucas, can we see you? I just want to make sure. I just want to know what you look like in case I see you in a restaurant.
Yeah, second. I have a lot like here.
He looks
Okay.
just like his avatar.
Oh, do you work with Adenia?
No, I don't work with the Dania.
Okay, all right.
He works
Well,
at Dakoko.
Nice to see. Now it explains the grandma avatar. It's not a grandma. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I asked him the same thing.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, but I know them, and I know people from that work there and have worked there. So
Okay. All right. Cool.
Well, you look like it. You look like you know him. No, just kidding.
All right. Well, yeah, thank you very much, Luca, for sharing your thoughts. Glad you enjoyed it and it felt like it's streamlined. And yeah, we've been working hard to make it as streamlined as helpful as possible. So really appreciate the feedback and glad you enjoyed it. And great to see you as well. Thanks, Perry, for encouraging him. And hopefully you two will run into each other in a restaurant sometime. Maybe all of us Eden Fractal community members can all have some a nice dinner at a restaurant together sometime as well. That'd be cool.
An Eden Fractal conference in Costa Rica one day. That would be fun.
That would be wonderful. I would love that.
Actually, Dwayne is planning an Interplanetary Unconference in Costa Rica.
Who is?
Dwayne.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, it's an extension of our ever ongoing unconferences.
Where is that at?
I don't know. You'll have to ask him.
Yeah, I think he lives near Dominical, which is a little bit of a journey.
He
but-
might, yeah, I don't know where he is, and I think he's been in different places, so you might check with him
Okay. Yeah.
and maybe help him plan it.
Hmm.
Planet.
Nice one. I'm surprised I haven't heard that in relation to the Interplanetary Unconference yet.
I know, right? We're planning it for the planet.
It's not associated with the United Nations, right?
God,
Please tell
no.
me. Okay, good.
That question
Alright.
seems to come up often. Okay. Is everybody ready for the topics on the agenda? Does anyone else have anything else you want to share beforehand? But oh yeah, by the way, I didn't respond, but yeah, having a interplanetary unconference session in Costa Rica, that sounds like an excellent idea. So hope to hear from Dwayne about that, and then we could all have dinner together and all sorts of amazing things. I'm looking forward to exploring that for sure.
Wasn't Tadas sharing something quite interesting with us last week?
Every week.
Every week also, yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah, tried to show a demo. It didn't really work, but yeah, we started discussing what my firmament project. But I don't know. Currently there are other items in Consortium that we might want to do this week first.
Well, be sure to show it. I'd love to see it. I don't think I was here for the whole thing last time.
Okay, well, yeah, I just so right now in Consortium, and perhaps I'll just get into the agenda and then we could decide it from there, because we've been kind of experimenting with new forms of community agenda creation. And I just actually pinned the topic that we had from last week about Firmament. Tadas shared some really exciting updates with Firmament in last week. So I had the pleasure to be in his breakout room. There's a couple tech issues, but I heard they got it resolved, and there's a great development going on that Tadas is doing that's enabling pinning of consensus to EVM chains and multiple EVM chains at once. We can get into that a bit more, and well, I just added to the agenda that I can provide an overview for, but I very much encourage people to check out Firmament, and I can provide some links where people can learn more. And Tadas, if you did want to share any updates with us, then please feel free to do so. And I suppose if not right now, then maybe I'll just share the overview of the agenda. As Lucas was saying, there's some streamlined processes here, so I could provide an overview for Luca or anybody else who may be watching who's not familiar with the processes that we're doing, and also making lots of new changes. So if it was good with everybody, then I'll share my screen and provide a little introduction to the topics on the agenda. Okay, so here is a welcome guide that we're working on, and yeah, we've been talking about how we want to refine this, but we have a little section here about Cagendas, which is a social coordination game that we created and we're constantly refining, that helps communities create agendas together and choose topics and choose discussion topics and make decisions together. There's some details about the exact version and like all the rules and stuff, but basically that's a high level overview and good to know. And for anybody who's new to the community like Luca, this is the welcome guide they're working on at edenfractal.com/welcome. And we also have several other welcome guides from highly respected community members that we're working on, and this is all in progress, but just a high level overview. Basically, if you go here and you go to Cagendas, then there's a little section here where you can learn, and there's a website. We've been modifying the process over time, so it's a little bit different now than when we first made it, and we want to do a more refined version. About 2 months ago, we started playing a game that at first I called Tropics, and then we decided to call it Topics, where we use a Notion database for topics. There's a page about this at edencreators.com/tropics, where I wrote out like a list of how this could work. And when we first started it, I created a bunch of topics in Notion, and then I created a Slido poll where everyone could vote in the topics, so we could decide like in real time what kind of topics we made. And there's also some branding here too, and you could watch some videos of previous meetings where we tried this new topics game and we explored them, as well as did some kind of research and ways to do this in our 59th meeting and 62nd meeting, and we've also done it a few times since then as well. So that's the only topic on the agenda right now. Of course, everybody can like, so this kind of works on top of the root Cagendas game, and the root Cagendas game is just that you can go to Consortium and go to the Eden Fractal Consortium and propose a topic here. I'm still working. Vlad has provided some updates in Wax for Consortium that makes us more easy to organize, but right now he hasn't built this on EOS, so it's a little disorganized and chaotic. But what we do is you can just write just write your topic basically by hit create a poll, and then basically whoever votes with the most Eden respect points, or whichever topics get the most Eden respect points in that week, get discussed first. So if there's any topics you want to prioritize, then please feel free to do so. And in this week, I believe the only topic, I mean, I can go, often we prefix the topic with the name of the meeting, or the number of the meeting. So for example, if I search for 69 and we do T69 for topic 69, then it looks like I'm the only person who made a topic. Feel free to let me know if there is anybody else who made a topic that you wanted to add here. And then, yeah, basically I said we could play this new topics game where we are doing it in, where we're organizing our topics in Notion. And so to do that, I created a few months ago this Eden Fractal topics database in the Eden Fractal Notion that we're starting. As I said before, if anybody wants to have edit access to this, then please feel free to let me know. There's already like 5 or 6 of us who have edit access in this, so you can feel free, if you already have edit access, to just hit new over here and just add your own topic to the list. I'm just trying to put these together beforehand, but if anybody else has any topics, or rather I'm putting together beforehand, so we have lots of exciting stuff to talk about. But if anybody else has anything you want to prioritize, then feel free to do so. And we're also working on refining this, so we'll have a type form or something where people can submit topics. And in previous weeks, I had a chance to set up Slido so people can vote on these polls, but it does take a little bit of time. So I can set that up if you all would like, but I haven't had a chance. It would take me like a minute to set up. I think what might be best is if first I just kind of go through a high-level overview of some of the topics on the agenda. Maybe take like 2 minutes just to give a high-level overview of each one, like 2 minutes total, not 2 minutes for each. And then from there, either I can make the Slido poll and we can vote on it, or if anybody has a strong conviction either way, then they can help lead the conversations. I see Lisa wrote, well, maybe add Playportunities. I'm curious what you mean by that, Lisa, if you want to share more in the chat or share more in audio. What's up?
Ways to earn tokens, different things people can do and play, and ways to earn.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's a great idea. And that's what we want to do too. So we're viewing Cagendas and topics as games, so ways that people can play, and we're kind of gamifying them more over time. And it would be awesome to make it so people can earn by doing this, by helping to make topics, helping to post topics. So yeah, if there's anything you want to go in more detail there, Lisa, happy to add to the agenda and we can get right into discussing it. But otherwise, I'm definitely working on that. And I just kind of it's a bit of a long-term process trying to get it all working together, and we're trying to figure out how to best make the best game possible playing for it, so we can bring the best play opportunities to everybody who's playing.
Yeah, you could use it as a directory, even if the other topics have play opportunities in them. It could be like a summary of each of them. You know, like maybe Eden Fractal multi-sig actually has several play opportunities in it. You know, those could each be posted as a brief promotion in that group.
Yep. Great point. Well, for sure, let's explore that. And maybe there could be some collaborations with the Unconference too, where we can introduce some of the many gamers in the alien worlds and the Eden community and wider world everywhere to these new play opportunities. I suppose first, maybe I'll just go ahead and just, since I have the screen up, I'll provide a little overview here. As I said, and anybody had any objections, if anybody does have another idea in mind, I would be happy to hear it. But I suppose without further ado, so I can go back to seeing everybody's faces in big, and so I could show you what you're looking at here, I'll just provide a brief overview of the topics, and then afterwards I'll make a Slido poll if nobody has any strong preference either way for topics. Some of these topics are pretty similar to what we discussed last week, but I updated it. One of the things we discussed last week with Perry and Eric as we're refining this is ways to organize these topics. So in this new system of organizing topics via Notion, you see on the top it says EF69, EF68 topics, and topics for EF67 and new topics and stuff like that. Kind of experimenting with this, but I think basically we can make a different database view for each week of Eden Fractal topics. That's what I've been doing so far. And so if you ever are confused about which topic you want to review previous topics, you can go and click EF68 topics to see stuff that we discussed last week, although it's still kind of messy, so it's still not totally there, because I don't think we discussed all of these last week, but you can get a general idea from there, and you can also see the created time and so forth as a helpful guide. And then in the top topic here, it says agendas and topics overview. This lists some of the stuff I showed before about how this topics game works. It shares that EdenCrates.com says topics and show notes from the 62nd and 63rd meeting when we started this. I should also add the 59th meeting too over here. So maybe I'll just add a quick note for me to do that later. And yeah, feel free to let me know if there's any topics you want to add. As I said, we're working on making a type form, but in the meantime, if you want to add where you can ask for permission to write directly on here yourself, or if you want to just ask me to add a topic, then I'm happy to do so. And then we could also reorder topics, and I can make a Slido poll so we can make it like very democratic and community oriented, or like community driven way of doing topics. But here's kind of an overview that I'm working on to just summarize how this topics database can work. And then the topics on the agenda that I wrote here that we could discuss, depending on what the community members, what everybody is most interested in. Perhaps we discuss several of them. There's a topic about remembering Marco, and this is links of Marco's work that I shared at the beginning of the meeting. Would be very happy to hear if anybody else wants to share some thoughts or memories of Marco. There's a whole lot we could remember, and once again, huge thanks and a huge loss. And yeah, Marco is a really amazing person, and it's very sad that he's not with us anymore, but there's a whole lot that we can remember, and there's a lot of great messages here from Brendan Lovejoy and Mel and Michael and many community leaders. So thank you everybody for the kind messages. Thank you, Evgeny, for joining again and being here again for the first time in a while and sharing a nice message about remembering Marco and your experience with him at Eden Fractal meetings. So if anybody wants to jump in right now and share any more thoughts, then feel free. I encourage you to check out a lot of Marco's great work. I gave a preview of some of it beforehand, where you can learn more about the articles and the timelines that Marco made on the W3 Briefs website. Happy to get more into this, and rest in peace, Marco. Also, the other topics, I wanted to provide an update to the community about the Eden Fractal msig updates. I was planning on putting this message up before the meeting, but I didn't get a chance, but hopefully I'll put it out later today. Basically, Vlad made an on-chain msig proposal that we can sign. I reviewed it and it looks good. Vlad already signed it. And there's also more context here, because in the 66th meeting, the Eden Fractal delegates voted to approve 3 proposals to change the permissions on the Eden Fractal account for the owner, active, and Morpheus permissions. There's a lot more details here, and you can look at detailed show notes that Rosmari put together for the 66th meeting, as well as 64th and 65th, where you can learn more about this. And basically, the takeaway here is that a lot of information you can learn here about what we did, and Vlad created the proposal. There needs to be 4 to 6 people, signatories, to sign that on chain to make it official on chain. Vlad signed it. I'm planning to sign it, and I'm planning to reach out to James, Mart, and Patrick hopefully today to sign that. And then after that, the permissions will be updated after a 2-day delay. And then also, on a related note, I haven't yet proposed the msigs for the distribution of Eden Respect and EOS for the past few weeks, because the permissions are changing, but I'll propose these as soon as possible this week once they're officially updated, and I'll share updates when available. And huge thanks to everybody who helped update the permissions and really help trailblaze the future of community permissions for everyone. So please feel free to share questions or comments there. You can get more in detail. I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting too, Aquadac Season 3. And Douglas shared a nice message previewing Aquadac. I've been joining a lot of these. And then I also, they've been super helpful. And I wrote another thing that I was planning to share in the Telegram chat, but haven't had a chance. Maybe I'll share it later, but you can read it here. I gave a little introduction to Aquadac for Eden Fractal participants and community members, and shared interview that Rosmari did with Gudasol. So big shout out to Gudasol for all the great work. Happy to get more into this. Just a high level overview right now. I can get more in detail and go into more about each of these. So I will move on and just go for the next preview of a topic, and we can discuss each of these in more detail after I'm done, or feel free to jump in if you want. I also just real quick added Interplanetary Unconference updates. I didn't previously have it on here, but then I realized when Lisa was talking about Interplanetary Unconference, she's been hosting the planning sessions. I joined one yesterday, and it was excellent. Super exciting work, and Lisa's been working on this for a really long time to help empower the metaverse community and alien worlds and Planet Ike. So I could add some more links here. I think it's Interplanetary Unconference.com. There's a Telegram group. Perhaps Lisa, if you want to provide an update to everybody in a bit about that, and I can also add more links here soon, but wanted to give a huge shout out to Lisa and big thank you to many community members. In addition, I know Eric's also been helping out with the Unconference a lot with the Center for Governance and many other community leaders. And then other topics on the agenda. This is from last week about Intro to Optimism. So we went over this recently, but this has been a big topic for the past month or so at Eden Fractal. I had shared an introductory message about optimism and some links where you can learn more about the Optimism Collective and how they're very aligned with Eden Fractal and all about creating public goods and helping people coordinate, empowering communities. And they also have a lot of funding, like a lot more funding than the Antelope community. So working to bring together the Antelope and Optimism communities. You can review this for an introduction to optimism if you'd like to see it. And then we also have more Optimism and Eden collaborations. As I said before, Rosmari put together show notes for the msig. She also did so for stories about the Optimism collaborations that we discussed in the past couple of meetings, and more coming soon. And there's also a draft article we're working on for Optimism where you can learn more. So these are places we can get more into the Optimism discussion if you'd like. Also an update about Optimism Fractal. Thanks, Rosmari, for sharing the article in the chat. Appreciate it very much. I encourage people to check it out. Optimism Fractal updates. This is another topic we discussed last week a lot, that I'd made a proposal with the DOS, Vlad, and Rosmari to start an Optimism Fractal and raise some funding from the Optimism Grants Council. Unfortunately, we heard this week that that proposal did not get approved, but we have lots of, it inspired lots of really helpful writing and plans and so forth. There's some links where you can learn more here, as well as if you go into the EF68 topics and go to the project for Optimism proposal updates, then you can see the original proposal that was created, as well as the feedback that we provided and some other updates. So yeah, unfortunately, it didn't get approved. They didn't have so much time to review it and really understand it all, I think, but we made some good connections and we have lots of good work, and we're still planning to start the Optimism Fractal hopefully next month. Build a tool so we can discuss more about that. And also there's more updates about Retro PGF, which is the major funding program. There's several different funding programs in Optimism, but Retro PGF is the largest funding program. It's about 250, 300 times bigger than Pomelo for the current season, maybe even bigger. And there's a lot of really great work here. So I curated some tweets where you could learn more about optimism. Basically, anybody who's creating public goods that helps the Optimism Collective is eligible to receive funding, and they have some great artwork and great concepts like Esther's Phoenix, and we have a little introduction along with some podcast episodes. And I've also been looking into EVM coordination tools like the HATS protocol and Charmverse and more tools that might be able to help us. That's another topic we discuss. And then I mentioned firmament. This was from last week's discussion. I had an article at edencraze.com/firmament where you can learn more about what TDAS is building, as well as TDAS has a bunch of great resources that are linked there. And then we had a great discussion, and we'll be releasing that video as soon as possible so you can watch TDAS's presentation and our conversation from last week. Lastly, there was one last topic here about Arbitrum grants with Gitcoin. Arbitrum, this program is almost over, but Arbitrum is another layer 2 that's kind of like Optimism, and they've been working with Gitcoin, which is like Pomelo, for funding public goods retroactively. And this program is open. I think there's $100,000 of their Arbitrum tokens. I don't know exactly, that are available. I don't think I'm going to have time to apply for this because I've mostly been focused on the Optimism and other stuff. But if anybody wanted to try to make a quick last-minute application with something they've been doing, then this rewards public goods through the Arbitrum ecosystem, and there's a pretty significant amount of funding. Oh, and something I should mention too that I totally forgot to put it in here, but Pomelo Season 7 is open as well. So people can go to pomelo.io to register for Pomelo Season 7, and this is where you can create public goods for the EOS community. There's 2 different tracks for the EVM and the native EOS development, and each has $75,000 in prizes worth of EOS. And there's a whole bunch of amazing projects, many projects from amazing community members here. In past Eden Fractal meetings, we held pitch sessions that you can learn about and watch at edencraze.com/pitches. So we've done 4 of these so far. There's something that we could do this season if people are interested in promoting their work and their Pomelo grants or other work for Optimism and other communities. So wanted to just let people know the donations just opened, I think yesterday or today, and I think the season will be open for another 2 or 3 weeks, and there's funding available for people creating public goods. So want to put that out there and help the community find funding opportunities. I'll share a link to this Notion page in the Eden Fractal Telegram general group and live chat. And then I'll try to put together a Slido poll too, so people can vote on it and determine what topic you want to discuss the most, perhaps. But maybe I'll just stop sharing my screen because that's a lot of information already. Hope you all enjoyed. And if anybody wants to guide the conversation, if there's any topic you want to discuss, then feel free to let us know. And I suppose we can kind of just play it by ear, and I'll try to get that Slido poll up as well. Also, if perhaps I know some of those topics we're kind of promoting other people's projects that people are leading, such as Aquadac and such as the Interplanetary Unconference. So perhaps if Lisa or Gudasol or Eric wanted to share more about what they're working on with these initiatives, or Tadas, if you want to share more about Firmament. I know Perry expressed, or Lisa expressed interest in that earlier. I suppose if anybody is really inspired to share anything, then feel free to do so. Or if anybody had any other topics that you had in your mind, I'm happy to hear whatever you think.
Well, I encourage everyone to go to interplanetaryunconference.com and register. There will be sessions for registrants and also for the public that registrants participate in. We'll be documenting our first year of the metaverse and our thoughts on the different topics and what we would like to see in the future and chronicle this time in history. We'll also be having a hackathon, which are the hackathon is for either developers or people with ideas. Any of the projects in our community certainly would be good candidates. And so please come and enter and participate. We'll have a lot of game demos and sessions all throughout October, a lot of different activities. So feel free to invite participants as well as the public that we're sharing with to your different activities as well by asking to add it to the calendar and welcoming Interplanetary Conference people. And we'll be creating live streams as well as videos. So come join the fun.
Lisa, could you drop a link? I tried going to that URL and didn't get it.
You're probably missing the un.
You're probably right.
It happens a lot. I'll do it. I'm doing it. It takes a minute to type it. Hopefully I didn't add a space in there. All right. Yeah, well, please, everyone come to the crown ceremony, the crown call tomorrow. If you'd like, we're going to do a trumpet ceremony just to sort of kick things off and create a trumpet video and hang out. And those who are interested also, GNOME will be hosting a 1 p.m. AMA. 1 p.m. Pacific. No. 12 Pacific. I'll clarify that and post it on Ike. But to demonstrate and do an AMA about dynamics of hegemony if anyone's interested.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Yeah, noon Pacific.
Noon Pacific is the. Can you please
Basically,
clarify or repeat that?
Which reminds me, Dan, are we having EOS Ship tomorrow? We were going to do the fractal viewing or whatever previewing, but I think that's next week now, unless I'm losing track of my weeks.
Yeah, I'm not. As far as I recall, we are going to do the demo from Vlad this week about the new Fractal app, but I'm not totally sure.
I'll double check with him. Okay.
I think so, but I think he knew better than me. So I'm happy to do it either way. For anybody who's not familiar, Lisa and I host a call called EOS Ship every Thursday at 15 UTC, and that's immediately preceding the Crown call, which has been going on for I think over 4 or 5 years now, that Dwayne hosts with the Crown deck at 16 UTC every Thursday. So these are great places to learn more about the Interplanetary Unconference and all the great work that Lisa's doing and all the great work that the whole community is doing. Perhaps I'll also share a screen too. I know Lisa linked to interplanetaryunconference.com. I mentioned, I think earlier, that I had the pleasure of joining Lisa and Eric and several other community members at the Interplanetary Unconference planning session. There was one of them yesterday, as well as a couple last week, and I'm not sure if there'll be more, but I hope so, or I'm sure there'll be more fun. Or will there be more planning sessions before the actual event start?
We plan every step of the way. So every time we launch something new or we have a reason to, we gather. That's the part of the conference. It's a little confusing being an unconference, but literally the registrants are planning each step of the way. So it's a bit of a different set of challenges, but I think, like yesterday, give me your opinion, but I think it turns out better for getting a lot of people's ideas and opinions about how to do it instead of, whatever Lisa thinks or whoever's hosting it, it's a nice way, like checks and balances and like not being too extreme in this or that and being realistic, but also tapping into what people really want and need, I mean, not to oversell it, but relative to the topics at hand, I should say.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the ideas of unconferences. It was the first time I ever heard of unconference, and since then, because the first one I ever joined, there was a planning session, I think like 6 months ago or so, and that was really great. And I've heard about more unconferences. I think that they're a growing trend, which it's great that it's much more like created by the community, and you get to hear people's voices, hear people shape it as you go. And of course, Lisa is a terrific leader, as well as Eric and many of the people who are helping to lead the initiative. Perhaps while I'm speaking with this, I'll just share my screen so people can see some of the links that Lisa had shared. I did just start this or start to add some of the links here into planetaryunconference.com. I just added it to the live chat at t.me/Eden Fractal as well. It's also kind of related to the DAC-a-thon, which I heard many people participating. I think Lucas said he maybe participated in that a while ago, as well as Vlad did. And I remember we were talking about different people who had participated. You up, Lisa?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember watching. Oh, go ahead.
You can go to dacathon.com. I think it's still there.
Okay.
I did 3 of those, and then we all got so busy with Alien Worlds, which in many ways we used the concepts of Crownlandia, which was one of the projects we submitted there. And obviously a lot of the different projects have evolved and become tools that we use. And so it's really fun to see everyone's success as they move forward in our communities, and a lot of people having that shared heritage together. It's actually how I know most of the people from our communities is from DAC-a-thon and inviting them. Actually, the unconference concept came from when June Dam and Max and Dwayne were in San Francisco, I believe, at an unconference there. And they brought that back to Crown. And I believe it was June's proposal to start it. So I joined not long after and jumped in to help. And it was like very different than anything I'd done. A lot of the people like didn't send their tokens in until like that actual day. And I was like, wait, how are we gonna, like I'm so used to being in the old uptight world, like, wait. And then it turned out everyone brought like a lot more tokens and donated to the hackathon and stuff. And I was like, wait a minute, this is better. So like it wasn't oppressive or anything like that. It was super open and fun and inspiring and quite different. So anyway, we are carrying on the tradition with the interplanetary version. Might have been easier to call it DAC-a-thon, but I think we kept the unconference part, which makes a little bit more sense now that there's so many DAOs, and that's more a common term, but there still is that community nature to it. So, and there's the beautiful art created by Beanie Nandra. We have 4 planets currently supporting, and perhaps some of our fellow Alien Worlds players will go ask the 2 remaining planets who haven't yet supported it to do so. That would be great.
Excellent. Well, I certainly hope they will, and I'm glad to see that Planet Cavian, Neri, Magor, and Ike are all supporting the unconference. As we were saying before, this is interplanetaryunconference.com, which is shown on the screen, which is also, that's where Eric is right now. If you've seen Eric's background, Eric is also hanging out with the aliens there. So we're curious if Eric, you want to share your thoughts. I know you're also working closely with Lisa with the Interplanetary Unconference with the Center for Governance. I see you unmuted. If you want to share some thoughts, Eric, feel free.
Well, the real key with the Interplanetary Unconference is a place where we show up and to decide what we want to do together. And we've got some initial categories to work on, like I'm working on governance, but we are really open to figuring out together what things we could do for a few purposes. One of them is just to explore and get knowledge, but I think even more important than that is what can we do to have fun? what things can we do that are just fun? Let's have fun. 2, let's explore and gain new knowledge. And 3, what problems can we work on together? So I think we've got fun, knowledge, and problem-solving events that we can do over the next few months. And I think everybody has great ideas on how to do it. I'm open to any ideas how we can make governance a game, a fun governance game, like a consensus tournament. If we could figure out what that would look like and what that means, that would be really cool. But the other thing to keep in mind from our point of view is we will be voting on everything all the way, all through this thing. So we've got voting for prizes, we've got hackathon voting, we've got open mic night voting. So to think about how we as Eden Fractal want to help support the Interplanetary Unconference with voting and governance, I think is a big thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Eric, for
I plan on having a palooza where I plan to invite all the fractal leads to get at a table and talk about their fractal and the problems they're having and successes. And so, I don't know when that is yet, but any other ideas for all areas, whether it's gaming or developing or creating anything. It's really an open chance for everybody to really play.
excellent. Yeah, I agree, Eric. Thank you for sharing. And
by the way, I'm hoping to have our proposal office for anybody who wants to talk about doing proposal office hours as part of the unconference to kick our proposal support. So Dan, I'd be happy to have your participation for optimism as an optimism. But we've got Pomelo and Alien Worlds and Ike. So there's a lot of areas.
yeah, fantastic. I was speaking at that with Lisa when we were on the call yesterday, and we were talking about how we could have collaborations between Alien Worlds and the Interplanetary Unconference and Planet Ike and the Autonomous Worlds in Optimism Collective. There's a large initiative in gaming called Autonomous Worlds, where they're building open source software to help people build games. So it's really nice to both AW. So I'm very excited to see how we can foster these collaborations between the Optimism community and the Interplanetary Unconference. I'm still working on building those connections, so I'm going to invite them to the Unconference once I have a chance to introduce myself and share who I am and share who we are with Eden Fractal and share more about the Unconference. But for sure, collaborating there would be great. And then another thing we discussed with Lisa was inviting people to the Unconference to Eden Fractal as well, to showcase what we're doing here at Eden Fractal with consensus games and social fractal cooperation and so forth. So lots of opportunities for collaboration and synergy between Eden Fractal, Interplanetary Unconference, and Optimism, and also the Interplanetary Unconference and all the great things you're doing. I also could pull up some other links too while we're here. So for one thing, I did curate a website at EdenCares.com/unconference some months ago when Lisa first started hosting the Interplanetary Unconference session. So, well, first off, at Interplanetary Unconference, you can see a lot of notes from previous planning sessions if you want to dig into the details, as well as join them. There's a Telegram group that perhaps Lisa can share in the chat. And then you could see some of the previous Interplanetary Unconferences, or at least one of them here. It was live streamed on Twitch and YouTube, and there were several leaders like Eric spoke there, Lisa spoke there, some other Eden Fractal community members spoke there, I spoke there as well. You can watch some of the videos of these planning sessions where we were discussing how to best make this Interplanetary Unconference as successful and helpful as possible. I recommend people check it out, and you can check that out at Interplanetary Unconference.com is the main website, but this is EdenCares.com/unconference. And then as Eric was speaking too, he mentioned a couple of really cool things about helping people have fun while also learning about governance. And Eric has been working on the Center for Governance for quite a while and doing really exciting stuff with the Interplanetary Unconference at the Center for Governance, including the open mic night. So Eric mentioned how we can use these voting tools and these consensus games that we're pioneering to help people enjoy themselves while also learning. So we did that for the first time at Lisa's Coffee Shop, which is at the top of the Center for Governance. And you can learn more about the Center for Governance here at the website. Eric's been doing great updates, working with the Ike Community Council that Lisa started each week, as well as Space Ranger Joe and many other community leaders in alien worlds here. I'm also on this council, as well as Dwayne, and you can see the beautiful events and all the cool things that we're doing here. So I recommend people check that out here. And another thing I want to give a shout out to, whoops, I have some random link on right now, but recently Eric also hosted or organized a AI planning session, or not planning session, but this was also in the Center for Governance too, where Space Wrangler Joe, I started watching this video a couple days ago. I'm looking forward to seeing the full video, because Joe shared some really amazing tips for making AI music videos, which is really inspiring. So I love the work that you're doing here, Eric, at the Center for Governance, as well as at Lisa's Coffee Shop and Space Wrangler Joe, making cool art and music for everybody, and really excited for the Unconference, because there's also, in addition to all these community leaders, there's so many other people doing amazing work at these unconferences. Oh, and by the way, shout out to Decathlon too. I remember learning about Vlad's work back by watching the videos from the Decathlon back like 5 years ago, and that's where Consortium came from. And obviously now Vlad's building these great tools. So yeah, if anybody else wants to share anything else about the unconference, recommend people to take part in the discussions and help plan the unconference, and then also recommend people to join and participate and get to know people. I think it'll be an excellent opportunity for collaboration and inspiring people, all sorts of amazing things. Huge thanks to Lisa and Eric and Space Ranger Joe and everybody else who's playing a role with it. I'm wondering if Luke has been playing a role with it, or other community members, or if anybody else wants to discuss other topics too. I know we had like 9 or 10 topics on the agenda. I know Gudasol's been doing amazing work with Aquadac, and he shared a little bit of an update last week, but I'd be happy to share more about what's going on with Aquadac. If Gudasol, you're interested in giving us more of an update now that season 3 is officially started, or we can get more into the optimism stuff too, or the or any of the other topics that were on the agenda too. But also, I don't mean to cut off the conversation. So if Lisa or anybody else wants to share more about unconference, we'd be happy to hear. Basically, floor is open if anybody wants to share something. And I'm also working with Rosmari on getting the Slido poll up too, by the way. So hopefully we'll have that soon in case people want to vote on topics, although we are pretty close to the top of the hour, so we could also start to wrap it up pretty soon. But we have at least another 10-15 minutes, and maybe we'll go for another half hour, or maybe even a bit longer too, if the community is inspired to do so.
I'm interested in hearing anything that Tadas has to introduce to us, because he's making stuff. And then also the optimism updates, the Optimism Fractal. That's interesting as well to me. So, well, my 2 cents.
Sounds great. Thank you very much for sharing your 2 cents, Perry. Much appreciated. I'm happy to talk about those. If Tadas, I see Tadas is muted right now, but if Tadas, you want to share any updates about what you're working on with Firmament, or perhaps what you're working on? I know we talked a couple days ago about the smart contracts and fractogram updates that you're planning to do for the Optimism Fractal, and those are very exciting. So if you wanted to share any updates with the community about anything Firmament or Optimism related, or EVM related, or anything else you're working on, would be very happy to hear it. I'm also happy to provide more details about the Optimism Fractal and open up a discussion about that. If anybody has any questions, Perry, or anybody else, or just comments that you'd like to explore, would be happy to do so. I think I saw Rosmari sneeze there, so bless you. Hope you're well. And the other thing is too, if anybody wants to, I mean, you could feel free. We're a relatively small group. We got 10 people here, so if you want to just speak out and share your thoughts, feel free. But also, if you did want to raise your hand, and then I could call on you whenever, feel free to do it either way. I see Perry's unmuted, so if you want to share any more thoughts, Perry, then feel free.
Well, here's a question. If we, for the Optimism Fractal, would we need a MetaMask wallet? Is that the idea?
For the Optimism Fractal, you would need an EVM wallet. So it doesn't necessarily need to be a MetaMask wallet. MetaMask kind of like Anchor, I suppose, in that it's the most popular wallet for EVM blockchains or computers. So that's one that you certainly could use, but there's also other options. Some of them are called, if I remember correctly, there's one called Argent, there's one called Xerion, there's another software called Wallet Connect. So you don't necessarily need to use MetaMask, but for sure you could use it, and it would require an EVM compatible wallet to do it. At least when the tools are built, I mean, there's a small possibility we could try to do it like just kind of manually, like we started for Eden Fractal, but the goal is to have the tools built on EVM. In that case, you would need an EVM compatible wallet such as MetaMask in order to do consensus for that and participate in the various different interactions with the blockchain, like putting the consensus results on chain, or if we use other apps like voting on topics and stuff like that, then all of that would use a EVM compatible app like an EVM compatible wallet like MetaMask.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Of course. Thank you for asking. If there's anything else on your mind, then feel free to ask. The floor is open. And I know, Perry, you asked a lot of great questions last week. So I don't mind. You don't got to be shy, or anybody else doesn't have to be shy too. If you want to share your thoughts about any of those topics you mentioned, or if there's anything else on your mind, then feel free. On another note, I made some progress this week in figuring out how to get music playing in the background. So hopefully in the coming weeks, we'll have some musical interludes. I like how Andrew Ware and Stefan have been having musical interludes on the EOS Fireside Chat. So that's something we could get going, but perhaps with even more musical variety whenever there's moments of silence. But yeah, feel free if anyone wants to share any thoughts, or of course we could also wrap it up early too if y'all would like, but happy to keep discussing any of those topics that we've discussed so far, or anything else that you have on your mind.
Yeah, I just want to say, don't give me a soundboard.
If we give you a soundboard, Perry, will you be responsible with the use of the air horn?
I can't guarantee that.
Well, we'll have to make sure. Maybe we'll have to delegate the responsibility of the air horn carefully with the Eden Fractal delegates. Maybe only the chosen few will have the air horn. What's that, Joe?
That was my crappy version of an air horn.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Joe. Yeah. Well, we can't stop anybody from just going ahead and miming an air horn with their voice. And I don't know, Joe. It sounded like a pretty good air horn. I don't know if it sounded quite like an air horn, but it sounded a little bit like an animal, like a bear or something, maybe. I don't know. But I like hearing it. We'd be happy to hear if you want to go ahead with another air horn emulation.
No, I'm good, but thanks for the support there.
Sounds good. Thanks, Joe. Also, I didn't add a topic to the agenda, but I very well could have, and maybe I should have, about the great work, Joe, you've been doing with the Upland Aliens, which I recently discovered is now the name, which is an excellent name. I saw the art with the llamas from Upland hanging out in the space, like the alien world kind of space, like kind of like almost like in like a Star Wars kind of environment, like a desert area. So that was super cool. And then it was great seeing you in the breakout room sharing your progress. I encourage people to listen and watch when we release this video on the Eden Creators YouTube channel in the coming week, hopefully. And then you can hear Joe explain what he's been doing with the Upland Aliens. Joe's been doing some really awesome work. For anybody who's not familiar, he's hosted, I think, 3 meetings now where he's teaching people who are Upland players and players in the metaverse about fractal games, and a lot of people who are new to EOS and Web3 and so forth. So Joe's been having a lot of educational learning experiences and also playing a leading role in Aquadac as well, and playing a leading role in Eden Fractal. So huge thanks, Joe, for all the work you're doing there. And I'm really excited to see what you're working on and collaborate and help however I can. So feel free to let me know if there's anything you do to help, and feel free to let us know if there's anything you want to do to help. I'm not exactly sure when it is. I think you said it's tomorrow. So if you wanted to share any more details about the Upland Aliens with the community, I know you said you're trying to keep it kind of small now because it's kind of helpful to start with a small community. But another thing you mentioned was that it's one of the challenging aspects was that it was you who knew what to do with the fractals, but a lot of people who you're teaching, or a lot of people who are in the community so far, don't really know about fractals. So maybe it'd be helpful if more people who are familiar with fractals from Eden Fractal can join one of these meetings. So if you wanted to share time or any more details or anything about the Upland Aliens or anything we're working on, then we'd be happy to hear it. And I'm sure lots of people in the community would be happy to support you however we can. If not, if you're busy too, or something, I didn't mean to put you on the spot after you did an air horn, so you could always save it for later. If you wanted to save it for next week and have a more prepared discussion, then feel free. But feel free to share anything right now if you want to as well, of course.
Yeah, well, I definitely appreciate the offer, and I'll definitely try to think of ways that this amazing group could be beneficial to that amazing group. So, but yeah, it's been going good. We've got some cool artwork coming out from some of our other members. We've got, I think at this point, I'd have to double check, but I think we've got the most votes on Consortium at this point, just from our last few meetings. So as far as that goes, I think we're kind of killing the governance game for Consortium wise, anyways. So that's pretty cool, and all those people were all brand new to it. Yeah, so it's been cool. But as far as help and all that stuff goes, I think I'll probably, next time I'll have more direction and maybe a request or two. But yeah, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, excellent. You're very welcome, Joe, of course. It's been a huge pleasure working with you so far. And yeah, feel free if you want to propose a topic on Consortium, or just just play it by ear and just join the meeting next week. And just let me know if you want me to add to the agenda, or if you want to just raise your hand at any point, or if any of you wanted to get access to the Notion page as well, and you wanted to add a topic. I mean, we could do it however you want, really. We don't have to make it too difficult. So if there's any way that we can help next week, Joe, that you think of, just feel free to let us know however you want. And we'd be happy to hear from you more next week, or whenever you're ready for us to help more, or whenever you have a better idea of how we can help. I see Joe sharing the praying hand, so thank you very much, and you're welcome. We're just at the top of the hour, so if you want, we could wrap it up. Also, Rosmari just put together a poll in Slido. It's a little bit late already, so if we wanted to wrap it up, then we don't need to vote in the poll. And I'm a little bit confused about which poll to share. Rosmari, if you could clarify, because there's two different links you sent me. I guess one is an internal, like, admin link, and one is a link where anybody could vote on it. I should know this, but I just got a little bit confused. But if perhaps, Rosmari, you want to share that in the Zoom chat or the Telegram chat, and I could walk people through how this works for both education purposes for next week, and then if we do want to focus our discussion in any way for this current meeting, and maybe the next 10 minutes or 15 minutes if we want to go. Sometimes we go for another half hour, but we also don't need to go so long. We could wrap it up at any time, really. But yeah, I see Rosmari just shared the link to the poll, and perhaps I'll just share the screen too. So the way that we're doing this is kind of more along the lines of the Tropics game that we proposed and we played, we first started playing in our 60-second meeting. I'll share the screen so you can all see what I'm talking about. Previously in the meeting, I had showed you this Notion database that had, I guess there's about 12 topics or here, and 12 topics or so. And I had mentioned Slido. So for anybody, I think most people here are familiar with Slido, but Slido.com, it's a tool for making meetings interactive, and it's a really good polling tool. Basically, it lets people vote on polls, and you can poll in different ways, like ranking, or like word clouds, or multiple choice quizzes and stuff like that. So, and one of the really great features is the ranking feature, which lets people vote on multiple different items, and then move them up or down. So for example, if I just click like 3 random updates here, well, I'll maybe just move it. So I'm picking some updates that we discussed already. So say we have 3 different updates. I just kind of randomly picked Interplanetary Unconference, Intro to Optimism, and Firmament updates. Then you can rank them. So if, say, for example, you want to talk most about Firmament, or if you want to talk most about, if I want to change it, I remove one and then say, oh, I want to talk about Pomelo season 7. And then you can take that and you can move it from 1 to 3 or so forth, and then you can submit it. We want to get a system where we can see everybody's names. Right now, it's not a huge deal. So by default, it says voting as anonymous, but you can change that and you can just add your name there. So for example, I'll add my name, Dan. You don't have to add your email and company. We're not going to like do anything with the information. And I don't even know where that goes when you do that. In other times we've done this, we first did this at our anniversary meeting, and we had some other, like a survey where you could do multiple polls. And I see people saying they got to go. Luca says he had to go. Thanks all. Thanks, Luca, for joining us. I don't know if he's still here. I saw that he shared a message like 2 minutes ago. Yeah, it looks like he had to go. But huge shout out and big thanks to Luca. Really appreciated meeting him, and hope that he'll be well. And we'll have that big festival and party in the meeting, or in the Costa Rica rather. And I also see Tadas said that he had to go. Thanks for the meeting. Looking forward to discussing Firmament and other topics in future meetings. Big thanks, huge thanks to Tadas, doing wonderful work with Firmament, and really appreciate Tadas. So hope that he has a great day. Thanks, Lisa, for also, or thanks, Rosmari, for also thanking them in the chat. Thanks everybody for all the engagement and great participation so far. I suppose we can start wrapping up pretty soon, because we have been going for 2.5 hours, but first I'll just finish explaining this, and then we can see if we want to wrap it up or if we do want to discuss these topics. So basically the way this works with Slido is you can select any of these topics, and then say if this was your topics, well, Toss had to go, so maybe we won't discuss Firmament anymore. Maybe we'll pull up the Optimism Eden Fractal collaborations like that, just for example, and then I would send. And then when you hit send, then you can see who voted for it so far. It looks like there's been 2 voters, including myself. So if you all don't want to vote, then it's not a big deal. Figure we can show this in the future. What we want to do is we want to have this this Slido poll done right away from the beginning of the meeting, so that when people see these topics in Notion, everybody can vote right away. Just for timing reasons, I didn't have time to set it up, but I gave the information to Rosmari so she can help set it up more in the future. Yeah, and basically this shows live what topics are getting the most votes. So right now the topic with the most votes is Optimism and Eden collaborations. So if anybody wanted to express their vote and let us know, they could. Perhaps actually, I didn't actually go into this, so some of these topics I just breezed over because I didn't have a chance to do so. But I suppose while I'm here, of course, feel free if anyone wants to share any thoughts or guide it. But being that some of the topics, it looks like that has the most votes, and I also didn't go so far into other topics, maybe I'll just take a moment to just share, because I know Perry also expressed interest in stuff that's going on with Optimism Fractal. So, well, for one thing, if you did want to see, Perry, the follow-up on our grant, we didn't really see specific feedback, at least so far, from the grant reviewers, but there are a couple links here where you can just see how it works. Basically the way that we figured out that we didn't get approved is just that our name for Optimism Fractal wasn't in this list, whereas if we were approved, then it would have been. But they gave some more information showing like the amount of proposals that were approved and stuff like that. So if you did want to check it out, then you could there, and I'm happy to discuss it in more detail. And then as far as the Optimism and Eden collaborations, which was the one that received the most vote, as I said before, there's links. So this is kind of just one random link. There's actually a meeting coming up in, I guess, 2 hours from now or so. Actually, no, it actually just started, or it happened like an hour ago. So Optimism has OP Radio every Wednesday on Twitter Spaces on their YouTube channel. So you can learn about the super chain and more about Optimism there. And then there's a page I also put together, well, one about Retro PGF updates. I encourage everybody to learn about this. This is the main funding mechanism of Optimism, and there's lots of links from the Optimism community where you can find links to learn or find tweets to learn more. But then the topic that had the most votes was Optimism and Eden collaborations. And yeah, I suppose I could just give a quick overview and a shout out to Rosmari for helping with this, as well as everybody for helping make these shows possible. Big thanks to Perry and Eric for asking a bunch of insightful questions and sharing a lot of great feedback in the proposal, or in the discussions that we had the past few weeks. Not just Perry and Eric, they helped a lot. Also several other community members, but really appreciate it. And yeah, you could see some of the collaborations we've done with Optimism so far. We started talking about Optimism in the 66th week of Eden Fractal. You can watch the full video, as always, here on edenfractal.com/66. as well as a little introduction. This is also the week that we updated the Eden Fractal permissions. And then if you go on the bottom here, then you can see where we start talking about it, or you can scroll down to the table of contents, and there's a section here about Intro to Optimism. There's also timestamps where you can see more detailed timestamps, but this Intro to Optimism section has a little overview with some of the links to the things that we discussed during the meetings, such as the Optimism Collective and Retro PGF and the Optimism Vision, as well as timestamps for each of these discussions that we had, or the presentation and so forth. And then in 67, similarly, we discuss optimism a lot more. There's a couple different like optimism kind of themed art here. So optimism is very big on like futuristic cities with lots of green, because it's all about sustainability and regeneration and funding public goods like gardens, like we have at Eden Fractal. And they also have the idea of Sunny, who's like kind of the mascot for Retro PGF. He's a very bright mascot who is helping to fund public goods. And behind the play symbol, there is the Esthers Phoenix, which is a beautiful mythic kind of story about a phoenix that rises and helps people create things that are helpful for humanity. It's written much better in this article that I've been working on with Rosmari. It's still a draft article at edencreators.com/optimism, where you can see an intro to optimism and then introduction to some key concepts like Retro PGF and Esthers Phoenix and the concept of impact equals profit. You can read a lot. We're going to add more art here and add more details, but you can learn a little bit about optimism here. And then also you can learn about Retro PGF. There's lots of links. There's links to some great podcasts with some of the community leaders in optimism and some synergies. And then, yeah, that part about Esthers Phoenix, because I was explaining that if you wanted to learn more about what that artwork is, it is the eternal spirit of human progress that optimism seeks to summon, rewarding those who contribute to the vision of universal flourishing. A lot of beautiful visions here. Huge thanks to Rosmari for helping to put this article together, as well as the show notes for 67. Oh, there's also a section here about how Vitalik Buterin, the founder of Ethereum, and many other great builders have spoken very highly about optimism. So you can check it out here, as well as the episodes. We're going to be updating this more with more helpful information. And then in 67, you can check out lots of discussions with timestamps about our introduction to optimism and more about these links. So if anybody wants to learn more, like I said before, the grant for the Optimism Fractal didn't get approved, but we're still working to do it and hoping to start the Optimism Fractal in the next few weeks if we can. So we can help the community as much as possible and also earn funding from the Retro PGF by creating a positive impact. So that was the top topic on Slido. I could check back to see if anybody else voted. It looks like so far we just had 2 voters, so I understand if everybody's busy and we could probably start to wrap it up soon. But yeah, I wanted to just, since that was the top voted topic, share a little bit about it. Rosemary's been doing incredible work, and I've had a huge pleasure working with her, so on collaborating here. So if you wanted to share anything about that, Rosemary, and about your work here, then we'd be happy to hear. I see claps from Perry. So thanks so much, Perry, for all the support that you've been sharing. And in this week upcoming, we're going to be releasing the 68th episode, where we discuss a lot more about optimism and about the Optimism Fractal grant proposal that we applied for, and Perry did very, very helpful work leading a lot of those discussions and helping everybody understand him. So watch out for that video. It'll be coming out soon on the Eden Creators YouTube channel. I encourage everybody to subscribe that. You can go to there by going to youtube.com/@EdenCreators. And it's also going to be at the top of edenfractal.com/videos. That's where you can find. Encourage everybody to subscribe and share with friends. And yeah, if you want to share more details about that, Rosemary, feel free. But I also see Gudasol asked, have you applied to other grants? What's the point of optimism without funding? What's the connection? So good question, Gudasol. So perhaps I'll just go ahead and answer that right now. If anybody else wants to, then feel free to jump in, of course. But basically, no, we haven't applied for the grants. I mean, we have a little bit. Like I just put up my Pomelo application for Eden Creators. So we've done a little bit of applying for other grants. And as I mentioned, there is some of the grants that we're exploring. But the main grant that we are applying for Optimism, in addition to the one that we did not get approved for, is Retro PGF. And that is a a big point of optimism. So optimism in general, like it's a really exciting initiative. People could check out optimism.io, and then particularly some of the links we shared, like going to the OP Collective. You can learn about how this community is very aligned with funding public goods and building a sustainable future for, they say humanity, but it's really, or they say Ethereum, and it is, but it's also for all of humanity. I think it's a really helpful vision that they have, that there's a big point of optimism, in addition to just us receiving funding. And I'd like to help support their vision, because they're all about changing the way the world works in many ways for the better, where when people create public goods and do good things for each other in society, they get rewarded with profit. And that's something that, when you imagine how that could work, it's like, it's quite similar to our ideas here at Eden Fractal and the original ideas of Fractal, about how people can get rewarded by doing good things for the world. And so that's one point of optimism in a more general sense, although I think that that doesn't answer your question about how it's particularly relevant to us, because obviously lots of good things in the world that we want to support, but we have to also make sure that we get well funded to do so. So the connection between why we're still so excited about optimism, in addition to just all the great stuff that we're doing about optimism, is their grant funding program called Retro PGF. And that's actually much bigger than what we previously applied for. So we applied for the Grants Council, which is one of the grant opportunities from Optimism. If you go to optimism.io and then you go into the doc section for developers or documentation on the top corner, and then you type in grants in the search menu, then you can see an overview of all the grants that are provided by the Optimism ecosystem. You can click on get a grant, and basically they have 5 different grant systems. Pessimism.io, wow, good one, Perry. Although I did see Coinbase. So Coinbase is working with the super chain, which is another big aspect that we went over in the Optimism article and in previous meetings. Coinbase, one of the biggest exchanges in the world, huge successful company. They're building a blockchain. They already released it. It's called Base. It's using the OP stack, which is the software from Optimism. Also, OpenAI is launching their own OpenAI, like the most successful AI company in the world. They're launching a blockchain and already built on Optimism as well, using the OP stack. So I'm getting kind of sidetracked, but there's lots of exciting stuff. But Coinbase actually did release something called Pessimism this week, which is kind of like a technical solution to secure optimism. So it's pretty funny that you mentioned that. If you check out Base on Twitter, then you can find Pessimism, and they might be at pessimism.io. I don't know exactly what the link is, but I'd be wary about clicking random links too. But yeah, anyway, the point is that I was trying to make to answer Gudasol's question about other grants and the connection. And one of the reasons why we're so excited about it is Retro PGF. So basically on this page in the docs, there's 5 different grants that are explained from the Optimism ecosystem. One is the Grants Council that we applied for that. In total, there was like a few million OP, which is like a few $1 million worth of funding that was in this season. They're going to have another season in the next few months, I think, but that still has to be voted in and stuff. So we might reapply for this in the near future. And then there's also some other grant funding programs that currently aren't open, but once again, these will probably be open in the next couple months. Token House missions and Foundation missions, and actually the Partner Fund is open, so we might still apply for that. But these are like relatively smaller grants, and these are all forward-looking grants where basically you can say, here's what I want to do, and can you please fund me for it? And so that's what we did. We made a big proposal for it, and many other people did. But the main funding mechanism for Optimism is called Retro PGF, and it stands for Retroactive Public Goods Funding. And this is different in that it's not saying, here's what I want to do, can you fund me for it? But it's, here's what I did to help the Optimism community. And then the way it works, it's a little bit like Eden. They have something called a Citizens House that currently has about 200 people who are called badge holders or citizens, who will each kind of just like see all the projects that applied for Retro PGF and then vote to allocate the funding from Retro PGF to all those projects. So it's also like Pomelo, where it's done retroactively based on what they've done, and people can just sign up to be a recipient of Retro PGF funding. And the difference between, say, Pomelo and this is that there's way more funding available in Retro PGF. I mean, that's one difference. Also, like Pomelo, it's amazing. I love it. But there's all sorts of different stuff. There's a really great culture in Optimism, and unfortunately, Pomelo, it's not being, it's not continuing in the current form, funding grants beyond season 7 due to some, I suppose, budgetary decisions from the ENF. Hopefully, it'll come back in the future. And there's a lot of amazing community members, a lot of great things that we've done that Pomelo's done so far. But Retro PGF is operating, and they're about to enter their 3rd season. You can see, in addition, so this is kind of like a high-level overview, this page here, but there's much better websites that go more into detail Retro PGF. So if you go to optimism.io and then you click on where it says either sign up here, or you go to governance, then you go to about Retro PGF, then you can learn more about this initiative. So they're giving out 30 million OP to public goods. And the last time I checked, I haven't checked in the past like a couple of days, but the OP token was worth something like $1.30 on market value, or $1.40. So that means that this is giving out approximately $40 million worth of funding that will be distributed. It's starting. Applications have already opened, and the funding will be, or the voting will be between basically November and December. I think it starts like November 7th or something like that. So that's about like 300 or 400 or 500 times more funding than was available in Pomelo. And this is highly aligned with what we're doing here. It's all about creating public goods that help optimism and help the world, really. Like they want it to be focused on optimism in some way. So I encourage everybody to think about the projects you're doing, such as Aquadac or Tetra or DNews, or things that Evgeny is doing with writing articles and translating, stuff that Joe's doing with Upland, all these different things, Interplanetary Unconference, we're talking about collaborations. If you could figure out some sort of way to also help optimism there and then make a case for it, then that's a way that you could perhaps be eligible for this retroactive public goods funding. And the experience I've seen so far, lots of people, there's like 200 projects that received funding in the last season, that they're giving out 10 million OP last time. Now they're giving out 30 million OP. So there's a lot of funding available, and you can learn a lot more here, as well as the articles we wrote. They also came out with the new blog post about how it works, or like how exactly the season will work. So there's a lot more detail, and I encourage you to watch the past 2 episodes of Eden Fractal, where you can see more details as well. I see Perry has his hands raised, so I'll pass it over to Perry now.
Thanks, Dan. Curious if you have a feel for how many DAOs exist on that stack or in that community.
Good question. So I mean, I don't know exactly how to answer it in terms of DAOs, because it's sometimes it can be difficult to like understand and explain exactly what is a DAO. Is it really decentralized? Is it really autonomous, and so forth? But some numbers that I can give you are perhaps the amount of projects that are participating in Retro PGF, and also the amount of projects that are using the OP stack, which seems like they might help answer your question. So for one thing, if you go to the Superchain website, this is where you can see who's using the OP stack. And the OP stack is kind of like the equivalent of Antelope. So EOS and Wax and Telos and stuff, we use the Antelope software. It's incredibly high performance, and it's a super helpful open source technology that anybody can launch an Antelope blockchain. Similarly, Optimism is building the OP stack, and with that OP stack, they're calling it the Superchain, which is kind of like the Antelope Coalition. It's like all of the different blockchains that are using the OP stack. And I don't know exactly how many different like communities are using the OP stack. I know there's at least like 10 OP stack chains, probably a lot more, and some very successful ones. I mentioned Base, which is like there's putting tremendous resources into it, from Coinbase to build Base. There's also WorldCoin, which you might have heard of, which is from OpenAI. They're already building on Optimism, and they're building their own OP stack chain. So OpenAI, they recently raised $10 billion from Microsoft, biggest AI company, and they're building with this. So like those are 2 big examples of communities that I don't think they're really DAOs, but they're building with the Superchain, the OP stack. And then there's also Zora, which is a popular NFT platform that's been around on Ethereum for a while. And I've heard about a bunch of other ones. There's one called Mantle, which is one of the biggest DAOs, actually. Well, they call themselves a DAO anyway. They have a very large treasury and total market cap of over $1 billion. They're working with, they have an OP stack blockchain. And then as far as like DAOs running on Optimism, I don't really know how to calculate that, but there's, I don't know, probably many dozens. Like you can see the community is pretty big. It's not like huge though. It's like kind of the same, it's kind of similar size to the EOS community or the Antelope community. Although of course Optimism is also kind of part of the larger Ethereum community too. So it's much bigger than the Ethereum community and the EOS community, Antelope community in some ways. But in some ways, like you go to their community calls and maybe there's like 30 or 40 people there, maybe sometimes more, maybe sometimes 50 or 60, but it's kind of similar in size. And then the other thing I could show you here too is if you go to the Retro PGF blog post, I'm just clicking around. Sorry if I'm making you dizzy by clicking a lot of places, but if you go to the Mirror, which is like the EVM kind of blog post system where Optimism posts. It's kind of like Medium, but more Web3. You can see the most recent blog post as well as a blog post from a couple months ago about announcing Retro PGF Round 3. And then in this most recent post, you can go into the, well, you can learn about how this round 3 of Retro PGF is going to work. And then you can also, they have a link for a Google spreadsheet here where you can see recipients of Retro PGF. And then in that case, you could see both the amount of of OP that these communities received, and you could see a lot of different projects. So again, these aren't really DAOs, or maybe some of them are, but a lot of them are just like things that people are building, or like some of them are companies even that people are building that are receiving funding. But you can see in the last season, I expect there'll probably be a lot more this season as the word gets out more. But in the last season, there was about 200 applicants, and they received anywhere between about 600 OP, which is worth about $1,000, and the top ones received just about $1 million, or actually more than $1 million worth of OP. So you can see kind of a high-level overview of how that works, and maybe that can help answer your question, Perry, about how many DAOs there are, or if you want to ask from a different angle, or share any other thoughts or questions, then happy to go into detail as well. And hopefully that answered your question, Gudasol, as well. Feel free to ask more or share more thoughts. We are planning to apply for more grants, but right now Retro PGF is like the biggest opportunity that we see, basically. So that's why we're focused a lot on contributing as much value to the ecosystem as possible with both Eden Fractal and Optimism Fractal, to both help raise funding and then help this community that's doing a lot of great stuff for the world.
Where do, I'm trying to follow along with where you found that page with all those articles, and then you clicked on to the spreadsheet.
Mm-hmm.
Where is that OP Collective? I think I found it, but it doesn't look the same.
Cool. Well, yeah, a couple of things. So one, the article that I've been putting together with Rosmari, I think if you scroll through here, it's not super well organized yet. Like, it could be organized better, but it's organized pretty good. And if you go to the Retro PGF section, then I'm pretty sure you could find it here linked. There's an introductory article, blog post announcing, and video playlist. So you can probably find it here, but maybe also the best place is if you go to optimism.io, and then they have a little thing that says sign up at the top of it. Then if you click there, then they're going to link to this page, and there's a page that says, what is Retro PGF? Maybe I got confused, actually. Basically, you have to get to the mirror site. Oh, yeah. So if you go, did you want to add there, Rosmari?
If you go back to the article, to the Eden creators article.
Okay.
And
here?
There you go. Yes.
Yeah, find this in the latest article, and you buy here through October 23rd. Okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you, Rosmari. So yeah, if you go there at edengrids.com/optimism, you can also find the link at the top of optimism.io if you kind of click around and navigate a little bit. But yeah, easiest place, if you just go our article we've been putting together, and then find this place where it says Retro PGF Round 3 info, and then you click there where articles underlined, then that brings you to the mirror post, and then from there you can find, for example, the spreadsheet or lots of other information about Retro PGF.
Okay, I think I'm going to go to optimism.xyz. I think that's where
.io. I don't know what's at optimism.xyz. Be careful, because there could be scams or something like that at the wrong link.
I'll share the link in here in the chat.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Rosmari. And yeah, Rosmari, by the way, I mean, I mentioned that you did great work with the articles, but then Gudasol asked questions and stuff like that. But I did want to once again thank you for that. And if you did want to share any comments on that, then feel free. Or Joe, or Lisa, or Gudasol, or Perry, if you all wanted to share any more. We could start to wrap it up whenever as well. And I see Rosmari just shared Retro PGF Round 3 applications are open. So that's an easy place where you can find it, Perry.
Okay, fantastic. And then there was a page that I saw, more from the Optimism Collective. I went to I'm going to the bottom of that, view all. I think I got it. Okay, good. The Optimism Collective. Okay, perfect. That's all. That's all for me. Yeah, thanks.
Sounds great. You're very welcome.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Was something else you were trying to say there? There's something?
No, this has my attention right now. This page right here. This is awesome. So this is a blog post page that they have. And what is the collective, the Optimism Collective? Is that an organization, or that's just, they're just naming that page? Do you have any idea what the term Optimism Collective refers to?
Yeah, good question, and thanks for asking. So I'll go back here. This is actually the website that I shared when I first shared the introduction to optimism. They have a really nice website for this. So back in, I guess it was the 66th meeting when we had the first topic introducing optimism to the community. I shared this site here. If you go to optimism.io and then you go to governance, you go to OP Collective, then you can see an introduction where they're announcing the OP Collective. There might be other places to find it too, but this is, I think, what's best. And basically they say we're announcing a new type of community designed to reward public good and build a sustainable future for Ethereum. So basically the Optimism community is this, the Optimism Collective is this new type of community designed to reward collectives or designed to reward public goods and so forth. And then they have this really nice graphical explanation about why the Optimism Collective is here, and you can see the town is growing as public goods being created, and you can read the text talking about how the Optimism Collective is a new model for properly rewarding those who create or sustain public goods. It's a band of companies, communities, and citizens bound by a mutually beneficial pact to uphold the fairness ratio, which is impact equals profit. So when you create positive impact, you get profit. That's what they're working on. And the Optimism Collective, I suppose, like, so they're explaining it. The Optimism Collective is basically optimism. Like, this is the Optimism community, basically. And they explain how the Optimism Collective consists of two houses, the token house and the citizens house. So these houses are tasked with balancing long-term visions with short-term incentives. So they have this really interesting bicameral kind of governance structure where half of it is like DPoS, like the token house, where they can elect delegates who vote on proposals and stuff. And then half of it is like citizens who can each invite each other, a little bit like Eden. So I suppose a way to look at it might be that optimism is kind of like the broader term that can also stand for, like, because there's the OP mainnet, which is like the blockchain for the optimism, and there's the OP stack, which they're building that other people can use. And then the Optimism Collective is like the community and the system that they're using to reward public goods using the optimism technology. So that's what it's doing. It's working to create a sustainable future for the digital city of optimism, Ethereum, and the open internet. And then if you go, after you scroll through there, then you can also see more details. They have a governance overview where they talk more about how the Optimism Collective is governed and works. And then they have a collective vision that talks about the vision of the Optimism Collective. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you very much, Dan. Thank you.
Cool. You're welcome.
I'm checking out, guys. I've got to take off, and I will see you next week.
Okay, sounds great. Well, thanks, Perry. Hope that you enjoy the rest of your day very much and appreciate all your work and everything you're doing. And Pura Vida.
Pura Vida.
We could all check off too if y'all would like. I'd be curious, Joe, Guzo, Lisa, Rosmari, if anyone else has any comments, happy to stick around for a bit longer. But also I know everybody's been here.
A comment on a new topic. There's a city of Tolosa in the United States, which is emerging as an ideal city by the people, and they're looking at governance solutions and lots of those things. And I think I'm attending a webinar tomorrow, but I wanted to mention it in case anyone else is interested in learning about Tolosa.
Super cool. I've never heard of Tolosa before.
Yeah, it's a
what was the last thing you said?
I don't mean like for discussion right this minute. I just meant for the future. Yeah, you might check into, you can TLOSA, the city of Tolosa.
Okay.
And it's kind of our kind of thing. But I mean, it needs our kind of things, basically, integrated. They have committees and people that have been gathering throughout the year in webinars to discuss the different aspects of being in a community. They're building this city, basically. And yeah. So some of the topics I wasn't as relevant in, and they have limited seats in each of them. They want to make sure they're active people. So I've tried to more attend the things that weren't as impacted or things that were more relevant to my skill set. But yeah, they're doing it. It's quite a professional job so far, I think.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for opening our eyes to Tolosa City, Lisa. And I think you said that you're going to be joining some sort of call about them or learning more. So I just added a topic to the Notion database that I was sharing before for EF70. So we don't necessarily need to discuss it then, but perhaps if you wanted to discuss it more during next week's Eden Fractal meeting and share a little bit of a recap or other thoughts you have in mind about how we could potentially collaborate with Tolosa City, that would be great.
Actually, that's a great idea. The community, I mean, the webinar tomorrow that I registered for is building a world-class city community connections with like a colon in between. So community connections is the theme. So I'll take some notes. And that seems relevant to what we all do here.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? Some of us will retire there.
It might be true. It sounds nice, Tolosa. I would like to check it out. And
you know, with things like City of Telosa, TELOSA. Those things can either like turn into like these amazing things or into a horror movie, right? So you want to do what you can to make them healthy, productive ecosystems instead of places you want to escape. I think they're doing good so far, so we'll see how it goes.
All right. Well, sounds great. And yeah, I agree. All the things we are doing here, they can be profoundly helpful for all communities, and that for sure includes communities that aren't just digitally in the cloud, but in the real world, so to speak, like on the ground. So that's really important that we collaborate with people who are building cities in the physical world. And excited to learn more about Tolosa. It also reminds me a little bit of couple different things. One, there was a really interesting program or like city called Zuzulu that I was learning about within the Ethereum and Optimism community. And then also I've spoken with Joshua. I think you remember Joshua Seymour, Lisa, but he's been working a lot on local communities and he's interested in empowering local communities with these kinds of processes and games and so forth that we're building. So yeah, it'd be great to collaborate with Tolosa and many different communities in the physical world with what we're doing here. And looking forward to learning more about that.
It would be fun, yeah, to have like a Tolosa communities call to introduce the people of Tolosa to the different communities in the metaverse. Like, I mean, I guess it would have to be the people, right? Like there's official people and there's the people that are interested, and they have a very tight system of what they do when and how they do it. But obviously we're a little bit different. We kind of just set up whatever we want. So we could set up a Friends of Tolosa group and record videos and tag them and share things that they might like in the city or something like that. That would be really fun, actually. I mean, it would be nice to have some sort of an official connection, but if that's not like apparent how to do that, I don't see why we couldn't go the other way. How, like, you know, if you think about it, a lot of cities have a Friends of whatever the city is that is like an organization that emerges, so it's kind of funny. But hopefully we can make some actual human friends there.
Yep, absolutely. That sounds really cool. Well, yeah, if you're going to check that out and check out the webinar, I think you said tomorrow in the coming days, then if you're able to join the Eden Fractal meeting again next week, then I can put that topic near the top of the Notion topics database that we had, or if you wanted to post on Consortium, then you can feel free there. That could make sure that it's prioritized at the top. But otherwise, I'm very happy to hear more about it. We could also discuss about EOS Ship or a different meeting too, but I'd be happy to discuss it at Eden Fractal or wherever else you like, really. And I think that can lead to both great collaborations with Tolosa as well as open the door kind of in a way for collaborating with all kinds of communities in the physical world as well.
I'll see what they're doing tomorrow and how it, you know, how it goes. And then for those who are interested, I think there's an Alien edition in a half an hour on YouTube. I could be wrong. But usually on Wednesdays, there's an Alien edition, which is super fun on YouTube. So check that out.
Excellent. Sounds good. I see, by the way, Rosmari said, thanks, Lisa. Found this link, cityofTolosa.com. So cool. I'm looking forward to checking that out. And then, yeah, Alien Edition. I still don't know exactly what their names are. I think Amber does it, but also they call themselves different names. So I'm still trying to. Yeah. It's Vega and who?
Electra is and Vega.
Okay, Electra and Vega. Yeah, I recommend people check it out. They've been doing awesome live streams. I've watched a few of them so far. I remember Joe was on watching them too, and they're doing some fun collaborations with Joe and doing some competitions. But they have great alien kind of uniforms, not really alien uniforms, but like kind of space explorer uniforms. They do it in a spaceship, and they do live streams where you can learn more about the alien worlds communities. They do awesome work, and I think they go live like every week. So I encourage you to check it out. That's called Alien Edition. You can find it on on Twitter at Alien Edition. They also do some great stuff on Telegram. So I don't have any links up in front of me, but encourage people to check it out. And if you want to drop a link somewhere, Lisa, in like the Eden Fractal Telegram group or something like that, that would be cool, so people can find it and watch. They're kind of like I've spoken with Amber and some of the people who are like associated with it, and they're doing some really excited work, and they're working with Alien Worlds, and they actually just followed Eden Fractal too on Twitter. I saw a couple days ago. So really cool stuff, and thanks for letting us know. And go Alien Edition. Those girls are really fun.
Yeah.
All right. Maybe I'll just real quick no, I might not be able to share that actually. Yeah, I suppose I'll just share the link in the chat and people can learn, or at least you can share it. I was thinking of pulling it up, but I don't know if I should right now because I don't quite have a good link. I was just having Twitter open. Is there anything else, Lisa, you want to share about Tolosa or Alien World or Alien Edition, or is there anything else anybody else wants to discuss before we wrap it up?
Well, please plan on coming. I guess we'll open the ship tomorrow. So starting 8 a.m. Pacific, and we can go through our list of technologies. That would be super helpful. And then we can fly over to Crown for the trumpet ceremony at 9 a.m. Pacific. And that is a very brief event, might I add. And then we'll have our regular Crown, just hang out and talk about whatever y'all want. And then at noon Pacific, at 11 Pacific, so 2 hours after the start of Crown, Beanie will join us. Beanie is the designer from Alien Worlds, and he's going to be focused on supporting us in the community in the coming months. And so we're really excited about that. And we're going to talk about, first of all, we're going to meet, everyone can meet each other who hasn't met, people who have been at the company per se, and have a chat about some of the things that we're hoping to achieve by doing that, by having a focus on design, including our maps and our websites and community resources, like planets that people can use and things like that. So quite excited about that. And then at noon, Gnome, also of UX, IBC, and DOH fame, apparently likes acronyms. He will be doing an AMA to talk about dynamics of hegemony, which has not been officially launched to the public, but it has been shared in the public in terms of Planet Ike supporting it. And so he's going to start talking to people about that. So we have a fun day. Grab your popcorn or whatever snacks you prefer, and spend Thursday in the metaverse.
Right on. Thank you very much, Lisa, for the overview of all the exciting events and content going on in the metaverse. I did just real quick, I figured I could just pull up the links to show Vega and Electra all the cool things that they're doing. for Alien Edition. You can check it out at Alien Edition on Twitter, as well as their YouTube channel. You can like and follow and retweet and stuff like that. Encourage you to check it out. I saw Red was on there recently too. So really cool stuff. We can go into more detail later, but just wanted to show everybody a little bit about what they're up to. And Dynamics of Hegemony, you mentioned a couple of times. So that's at dynamicsofhegemony.com. Gnome, who he helped lead many Eden Fractal meetings. He's doing great work with the UX network. He's building this really cool strategy game, also helping people collaborate with these kinds of social consensus games inspired by Eden Fractal. You can learn more. We can go into more detail too, but I just figured since you're mentioning it, and also City Tolosa, I opened up that and the link looks super cool. They have like a really cool video. It looks very futuristic. So looking forward to learning more about Tolosa for sure next week. And as you mentioned, or as we discussed previously, reminder, Interplanetary Unconference, lots of events here, and you can check out interplanetaryunconference.com, as well as the links that we shared before, such as edencreators.com/unconference, and then the EOS Ship and the Crown calls tomorrow, which is Thursday at 15 and 16 UTC. You can view in Telegram, and you can see a really cool picture. It doesn't show up in the browser, but just wanted to kind of recap that visually because Lisa shared a bunch of great content. Also, a lot of other great stuff. We are like at over 3 hours, so I suppose we should really wrap it up, and I shouldn't keep going on. But I see Gudis also on the call, and he's been doing really great work. So once again, I wanted to shout out Gudasol for all of his work with Aquadac, and remind people that you can join Aquadac every Tuesday at 16 UTC, and you can check out the Notion database to learn more about that. You can review all the stuff we talked about here and made a full call for once. Thanks so much for being here, Gudasol, and during the whole time. If you want to share any closing words, then feel free. We'd be happy to hear from you. And yeah, you can learn more. I'm going to share this message with more about Aquadac as well in the Eden Fractal Telegram group soon, and you can learn all the stuff that we talked about, optimism and firmament and everything like that in the meeting. Once again, thank you to Marco too, and I hope that Marco will rest in peace, and I encourage you to check out the links and the beautiful messages that people shared to learn more about Marco and all the amazing things he did. Otherwise, I suppose we could wrap it up. If anybody has any last comments, then please feel free to share. I'll stop my screen share. We could put hats on, although I don't know if that would be fitting, and we haven't worn hats for the past few weeks, so maybe we could just wrap it up with what's that? What's that? Yes, the hats would not be fitting. So good pun again. I see Rip Marco, a bird gone too soon. Thanks all. That Gudis over in the chat. Yeah, that's true. Well, hopefully, like Jorge said, Marco was a huge advocate of aviation. He shared a lot of wisdom there. So Jorge had shared another beautiful message, aviation related, and hoping he's flying and enjoying it and all that, and we'll have a lot of good memories. And yeah, I encourage people to check out the links that we shared. And we talked about reaching out to Marco's family too, so maybe we can do that in the coming days and weeks. But yeah, I suppose we could wrap it up though. Respect everybody's time, because we are over here for over 3 hours, and that's a very long time. If anybody has any last words that they want to share, Jill, Rosmari, Lisa, Gudasol, thanks so much for being here. Thanks everybody so much for watching. If you all have any last words or any recommendations on how to wrap it up, I suppose we could just say thank you and goodbye and stuff like that. Go community, go Eden Fractal, and thanks everybody so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. And peace. We see Gudasol. Great to see you. Hope you have a great day. Rest in peace, Lisa wrote. And Rosmari, great seeing you. Joe, great seeing you. Lisa, I suppose we could just sign off. And we'll see you next week. Eden Fractal every week, Wednesday, 15:30 UTC. Looking forward to the 70th meeting, and we'll have lots of good stuff to discuss. And until then, hope everybody has an amazing day and amazing week.
You too. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.